college sports, there are touchdowns, buzzer beaters, and now checkmates. For 7 weeks, 8 schools competed for 6 playoff spots. Ivy League battles and in-state bragging rights were on the line. But now it's time for the final exam. Can anyone take down the reigning champ St. Louis University, or will there be new CCL kings and queens? These are the questions on this test.
Trade the queens, Queen Adventure.
Whoa, beautiful.
My goodness. And it's over.
So prepare for your matches.
This is some Grandmaster chess right now.
Study your opponents and budget your time, because the next 3 weeks are about making the right moves at the right time.
Is he trying to win or what?
He's gonna fly.
Ow! Oh my god,
my
no, dude.
goodness.
Or going home. The 2023 Collegiate Chess League Fall Season Playoffs start now.
And it is playoff time. Welcome back, everyone, to the Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. I'm your host, Nemo, and I am joined here by the wonderful Joe Bruin. So I missed last week, but I'm really excited to be back and be hosting once again with Joe. Joe, how do you feel so far? How have you felt about the season?
The regular season has been incredible. We've been watching some of the best college chess for these last 7 weeks, which leads us to the last 2 weeks of the season, the most 2 exciting weeks of the season. We have playoffs, Nemo.
We have playoffs. I mean, we're now in the quarterfinals, which means after this, it's the semifinals, and then it's the finals. We only have like 3 more days, including this one, left. This is crazy. It's wrapping up so fast.
Yeah, and just a real quick recap of the regular season, we have Dallas at first, sole possession of first, actually only losing to SLU in that crazy overtime. So they won 6-1. And in second place, we had a 3-way tiebreak, which was settled last week when Mizzou took down SLU in a tremendous match, winning 12.5 to 3.5. And so SLU actually has to play today against Columbia, who actually beat out Chicago for that 6th and final playoff spot in a head-to-head tiebreak earlier in the season. Nemo, what's been the most exciting part of the regular season so far to you?
Well, I have to admit, we have had some absolutely insane games. I was not prepared for the tactics. I was not prepared for Awonder's openings. There have been like so many different things, but we are going to be seeing playoffs today, and we'll see the playoff matchups and how they shake out, presented by SIG. So I think last week there was actually something pretty crazy too. SLU is not in the semifinals. They're not confirmed in the semifinals. They actually have to face off against Columbia. How do you feel about that, Joe?
I was definitely shocked and surprised, but I think part of it is your responsibility, Nemo, as you weren't commentating. So we actually brought in Benjamin Bok as my co-host, and he decided not to play. So that might have played a role in it, but frankly, the Mizzou team just looks so good. I actually put Mizzou ahead of SLU in my playoff prediction bracket, as crazy as that might seem.
That is actually pretty crazy. I think when I first started the Collegiate Chess League, obviously, I have heard of SLU, but not as much as I've heard of SLU. I've heard of Mizzou. I haven't heard as much of Mizzou as I have SLU. So seeing Mizzou confirmed in the semifinals, but not SLU, has been a little surprising. But as a reminder, they are guaranteed already 4th. Mizzou is guaranteed $500, but we still have $5,000 for first and $2,500 for second, as well as $1,000 going to the 3rd place team. And here we are going to be jumping into our very first round of the day, our very first match. We have UTRGV facing off against Yale. And I do want to talk a little bit about these lineups, because international master Sean Rodriguez Lemieux from Canada, he's from Montreal and Quebec, is actually not going to be an international master for too much longer. Fingers crossed for that, at least. But Joe, give us a rundown on the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, UTRGV has quite the strong team, starting with their top board, Rodriguez Lemieux. Great pronunciation on that, your fellow Canadian. So that'll be really exciting to watch him play. But yeah, he should have all of his norms, just waiting on FIDE to confirm his GM title. So congrats again to him. But Yale has a GM already on their top board, Nicolas Checa, who was instrumental in Yale's win over Mizzou back in week 5. So we cannot sleep on this Yale team. They're capable of upsets. They can take it to the semifinals, as we've seen before. So good luck to Yale against this really tough UTRGV team. And I think UTRGV is looking to win probably on the lower boards and make their way back to face off against Dallas once again.
Yeah, that does bring us to the quarterfinal match of the day, UTRGV versus Yale. So before the matches start, let's give a quick refresher on today's match format. We do have all of the players playing against each other, so you're not just stuck seeing the same two people play against each other. The time control is 5+2, so get ready for some fast-paced commentary, as well as the fact that 8.5 points wins you the match. The regular chess rules still apply. It's 1 point per win, 0.5 points per draw, and we go into tie breaks if the score is tied at the end of all 4 rounds, which we have actually seen. In fact, we went into one tiebreaker and then a second tiebreaker, and there were 3 tiebreaker games, right? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was SLU versus Dallas. That was Dallas's only loss of the season. So we could see a tiebreak at any matchup in the playoffs. I don't know. Do you think we'll see one today?
I don't think so. I feel like today I'm pretty confident in one of the teams. I'm not going to quite say which one just yet, because once again, both of these teams are incredibly strong. But I do think that UTRGV is slightly favorite, at the very least, to beat out Yale.
Yeah, I mean, we said that when Yale played against Mizzou, and look what happened in that match.
It's true. I mean, honestly, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. And I really like that about these games, because you have, 4 title players does not necessarily mean you're going to crush out the match. And I think that's really important for a tournament like this. It gives us something to cheer for as well. It gives us something to view. So I'm really excited about today. And I think that some of these games are going to be really exciting. I'm personally a huge fan of Sean. I have played against him when I was little. I guess both of us were younger. Yeah.
You
So
guess?
I guess. I mean,
You're not sure.
it's been like at least 8 years or something. So I
Okay.
assume we were both younger at that time. But yes, I have seen him grow up basically in Canadian chess, and it's really spectacular to see him play for UTRGV, being the board 1, as well as winning his Grandmaster norms. So huge congratulations to him once again for that. It's not every day that we have someone in Canada becoming a grandmaster. So I'm just really happy. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, the Canadian talent. I mean, you got a couple grandmasters I know with the chess bras.
Mhm.
So Sean, congrats again to him for getting his final GM norms. Just waiting on FIDE to confirm it, and we all know that might take some time. But he's basically GM, and honestly, we've been talking about how these IMs are very strong and just working on those GM norms, and it's really cool to see Sean get it. And I think his teammates are probably trying to follow in his path and get some GM titles of their own. But I'm really excited to see how Checa does. We've seen a week where he did really poorly and their team suffered because of it. And we've seen him really pick up his A game against a team like Mizzou and his team succeed because of it. So, what kind of version of Checa do you expect today? It is playoffs.
Honestly, I think Checa would be the key factor to Yale potentially pulling off an upset. If Checa just performs well, which we know he can, we also know he can do not quite that. He has had rough weeks, as Joe has mentioned. But I think that if he does well, that could be potentially where Yale gets their points, right, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, they have to get their points from their top board, but we can't sleep on their other boards either. We have National Master Lyndon Lee, who we've seen take down some GMs of his own. And even their bottom 2 boards, specifically their captain, Maxim Yaskolko, can definitely upset a couple of these players. So they can't take it easy by any means. And just as a reminder, not only do we have cash prizes on the line, we also have the fact that this is an elimination bracket. So if you lose, you go home. That's it. That's the end of the season. They're playing for money, but also for the sake of competition. They want to make it to the semifinals. And the winner of this match will play against Dallas, which is going to be a tough matchup as well.
Yeah, I personally really like these team school formats. You know, I feel like we have seen a lot of collegiate basketball, a lot of collegiate football in the US. But what about collegiate chess? I really like that chess is sort of entering more of the mainstream and obviously becoming part of the collegiate program. Everybody at campus. Well, okay, you know what? I don't want to say everybody because when I was personally at university, I chose to not be involved in anything at university and just try to get through, like, honestly, school. But that's a different story. Being part of a team is a lot of fun, is what I want to say. I enjoy being part of my collegiate chess program. I don't really even remember what it was called. Like I guess it was just University of Toronto chess team, but it was really fun. And I think that going into the quarterfinals, going into the semis, we are going to see a lot of tension in these games because a lot is on the line. And you're representing your school, you have a team, you have teammates. So every loss hurts a little bit extra because you remember, like, oh, hey, you know, you are also participating with 3 other people. So, Joe, have you ever played in quarterfinals before? Have you ever played these knockout formats?
So I personally have not played in a elimination bracket for chess off the
Mhm.
top of my head. I played on a team for like US Amateur Team West. I've played for the UCLA team. But this kind of format, this kind of tournament didn't really exist back then.
Mhm.
I think like the closest thing we had would maybe be Pan Am's, which is a Swiss tournament. And like maybe you could consider the Final Four kind of like a playoff thing. But frankly, I'm really excited because we're trying to push the bounds of chess as a college sport, and we're waiting for the games to start because we actually have fair play protocol where the players are going to be on a Zoom call. So this is as legit as it gets. This is the same kind of standard practice that the top chess players in the world play when they're playing in these online chess.com tournaments. And we're really treating these college athletes like professionals, which
And
is very exciting for me.
yeah, and I also want to bring special mention to the fact that Joe is the High Commissioner of the Collegiate Chess League. So he is actually the person responsible for putting a lot of this together and managing the 23 divisions we have of the Collegiate Chess League, I believe. Please do correct me if I am wrong, but there are a lot of divisions. This is not the only one. This is where all the top grandmasters play. But if you're in college and you want to play in the Collegiate Chess League, it goes all the way down to like the 800s, possibly even lower.
Yeah, the rating cap actually for the 23rd division, you're right, by the way, is 800. So literally anyone of any rating can join. And so far, we've only been covering Division 1. So a very small percent of the actual league is what we're seeing. But we're seeing the tip of the iceberg here. These top players, I mean, the Texas teams alone have so much talent. UTRGV, all 4 IMs. I think a lot of most schools don't even have 1 IM, nonetheless, 4 IMs.
Right.
So we're watching the top talent of college chess, of what college chess has to offer. And I can't wait for these games to start. It looks like we have board 1 underway.
We do have board 1 underway, and this is the very exciting matchup that I've been talking about. Sean, newly crowned Grandmaster, versus Siddharth Arun, who is playing board 4 for Yale. Um, of course, ratings wise, it doesn't seem like it quite matches up, but I'm sure the team has their own strategy and everything in mind. Also, every board playing every other board doesn't really make a difference when it comes to the lineup. You're gonna play everybody anyways. It only matters until it goes to tiebreakers.
Yeah. And that 4th round is perhaps the most exciting, where the top boards are playing the top boards, bottom boards are playing the bottom boards. So this first round, we might have the biggest mismatches, especially for this Yale team. Their 4th board Siddharth here has to play against 2,900 GM elect Sean Rodriguez Lemieux, your friend. Do you have any personal insight on Sean's opening, or has it been too long? Do you think that he's maybe stayed to some of the same ones that he's been playing as a kid?
It's been far too long. I mean, the last time that I really played Canadian chess was, back in like 2016, 2017. So it's been a very long time since I've actually met him in person, played against him in tournaments. But I do have to say, even when he was younger, he was extremely solid. He's just one of those players that you're like, oh yeah, he might not have been a grandmaster prodigy who got it at age 12, but you know that he is on track to getting that grandmaster title. Like the way that he plays, he doesn't make any mistakes, he's very consistent. So it's really cool to see him play here, and it's actually looking like with his opening choice he is sticking by that. We're going to, well, it's effectively a queen's gambit, not quite, but it's a queen pawn opening, and we're going to trade off into these end games where black has a very easy game to a draw. So it'll be very interesting to see if black actually pushes this for a win as board one.
You think it'll be surprising if Sean pushes for a win here?
I don't think at all. I don't think it'll be surprising at all. That is very much in his play style to push for a win in these positions.
Yeah.
And I think it's also very much in the play style of a higher rated player, right? When you're the higher rated player, when you are board one for your school, for your country, whatever it is, there is this certain amount of pressure on you to win your games. I'm talking about this from experience. It is not perhaps the most healthy for the team dynamics sometimes, because sometimes you might take risks, and maybe Sean has a better handle on that. But he's definitely going to be pushing this for the win. Be very surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think as board one, as top of the team, you kind of are expected to win, or at least push for the win, especially in round one here. This is, like I mentioned, the biggest mismatch of the match, right? This is GM versus board four from Yale. So anything less than a win is actually a defeat and a huge
Whoa,
upset
whoa,
in favor of
whoa,
Yale.
whoa, whoa, Joe. You just sounded like my mom there. Whoa, calm down a moment. Anything other than a win is okay. That is definitely the kind of mindset that I would say happens when you're playing board one. But playing with the black pieces, it's also okay sometimes if you take a draw.
You're sounding like the parent I wish I had. No, no.
I know, right? It's all
Man.
because we had the parents we had, which is why we're here now. So, go into the future. If I was ever going to be a parent, I know what to not say to my kid, because it does not help. I guarantee you, telling your kid that, hey, anything other than a win is a loss is not helpful going into a tournament.
I'm just saying this is board one versus board four, Nemo. This is UTRGV scholarship team against, yeah, I mean, full credit to Yale and their talent
Mhm.
and their ability. And we've seen them take down scholarship teams before. They have that potential. But I'm just saying for this round, this matchup in particular, board one versus board four, UTRGV is expecting nothing besides a win. So,
Right.
and of course, things happen. It's a blitz game. People can take
Absolutely.
down IMs, GMs all the time, but I'm just
Absolutely.
trying to set the expectations.
For sure. And I also wanted to remind everyone that we have predictions going on in the chess.com chat, and Joe and I actually have not made our predictions yet. Do you want to do that?
That's a great point, Nemo. And actually, that reminds me, we did the same thing last week, and Bach coming in for the commentary booth for the first time actually predicted the Dallas score perfectly. And I finally had to gift out some subs. So you kind of messed up the SLU team, but you also kind of messed up my wallet there with bringing in a grandmaster to nail the prediction perfectly. So
What? He actually got it
maybe I can get my
exactly
money then.
right?
Yeah, he guessed the Dallas win
Wow.
over, I think it was Columbia. It was like 14-2. It was a slaughter.
That's actually really crazy, because I don't really know if being a grandmaster helps you with predictions like that, considering a lot of, random factors might come into play during your game. Also, speaking of the game, Black has completely expanded. And as we were talking about earlier, Sean is pushing for that win, right? I don't actually love this e4 move. This might have over pushed his pawn structure a little bit, but you can see that he is going for space. Another of Sean's advantages is actually that he has the pair of bishops, and pair of bishops are extremely important in endgames because they control both the dark squares and the light squares. And at the same time, White's king is still in the middle. So this position is actually looking really good for Sean. And I think with this showing, with how this first game is currently going, I'm going to say I very much prefer UTRGV.
I was hoping you would say your prediction first, but I can go ahead and guess. I totally agree with you on all the analysis. Like White still needs to get castled, and Black has the bishop pair. Black has all the space in the center, the rooks in the center. But I think this score, I want to give Yale some points and some credit for sure. But I
Yeah.
do think UTRGV is going to win. The question is by how much, and I'm going to say 10-6 UTRGV.
10-6 UTRGV. Okay, since you have said 10-6, I'm going to go with 10.5 to 5.5. Sorry. Yeah, 10.5 to 5.5.
I think that's a good prediction, honestly. I think looking at the Yale lineup, like I'm really banking on Checa to get a lot of points and
Mm-hmm.
maybe some points from Linden as well. So we're both within a half point of our predictions. I think it's going to be in that ballpark, but Yale definitely could upset the UTRGV team and see if they can catch us off guard with our predictions.
Yeah, I'm definitely no Benjamin Bok when it comes to predictions, and also no Benjamin Bok when it comes to the chess. But I am yet to get a prediction right, and so are you. Actually, I think
Yeah, me neither.
Benjamin is somehow the only person that has gotten a prediction right on this broadcast. Amazing. But I do want to say I think UTRGV is very much, they're looking good. And speaking of looking good, let's actually take a quick look at bird's eye view to check on some of the other games, as we're going to let Sean continue grinding this end game for the win.
Oh my God, we have results already?
We do, and actually, it's not in the favor of UTRGV. It's in the favor of Yale. We just have seen Lyndon Lee of Yale take down Jakub Fuss from Poland, but of course, playing for
Wow.
UTRGV.
We have to get a recap of that game and see what went wrong.
Right, I agree. Are we allowed, producers, are we allowed to take a quick look at this game? Let's take a quick look at this game. They're still hanging out. This is not a live game, everybody, but we are going to be taking a very, very quick look regardless, because this is our first decisive result of the day. And I think that's one of the more surprising results.
Well, I mean, we've been talking a lot about Checa, but Lyndon Lee, this is the older brother of Alice Lee, as you all know. Um, he's definitely capable of getting these wins. So I wouldn't say it's too surprising. What I will say is how quickly it happened is what surprises me. So there must have been something horribly wrong here for White. And let's see if there's a tactic that Lyndon spotted.
I do want to say that White's position right now at this very second is looking very good, but he plays knight to d5, which I don't quite understand, because this looks like it's a free knight, and if the idea is that after e takes d5, this is pinned, right? And this bishop can't move away without losing the queen. But I think Jakub might have missed bishop to f5, where it attacks the queen on c2. So now, when White takes the queen on e7, Black is just like, I don't care. I'm just going to take your queen, and actually comes with another attack, attacking the rook on b1, where the rook's defending the bishop on b2. So when the rook moves, now Black also wins the bishop on b2, and this is an absolute disaster. Absolute
Oh,
disaster for
man.
Jakub.
Oh, and we have another result. Um, this first round, I don't know if it's the playoff jitters or the first round jitters, but games are ending so quickly.
Yes. Yes, they are. We have seen Sean win his endgame actually much faster than I would have expected, and we are also seeing Duden take the win for UTRGV.
Yeah, we got to check on Checa's position.
We do. The last board that is still standing.
And so this is UTRGV's board 4, who is almost the same rating as Checa on board 1 for Yale. So I see that Checa is doing well and also crushing on the clock. Osner only has 13 seconds.
And I have to admit, I don't think there was a pawn cloud in this game, but unfortunately, White's king is sitting on e2, which means that Checa is actually going to come in here and the engine shows mate in 2, so White resigns. But very, very ugly position for the king if you play rook takes d2, queen takes d2, king to f1, and then queen to f2 goes into checkmate.
Yeah, and with that, we see the expected results here in round 1, the top 2 boards getting wins for both teams. So Yale is hanging in there right now. It's tied 2-2, which is exactly, I think, what Yale wants. They want to keep it on pace and maybe steal the match in the later round. That's kind of what they did against Mizzou, right? So I think a tie favors Yale, actually.
I think so
What are your
too.
thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a tie for Yale is really good. Yale is definitely average rating wise slightly lower than UTRGV. And also I would say round 1 is by far the hardest match potentially for the team, for the underdog Yale, because they have such a big rating difference. So now it's actually going to get a little better. Now we're going to see board 1 play board 3 and stuff like that. So we are going to jump directly into round 2 of this match. I definitely am not feeling confident about my prediction.
Really? You think well, I think as the match goes on, it favors UTRGV more because those later rounds, I think you're gonna have the bigger mismatch on the lower boards. So it's good to see the Yale's top boards are doing well, but I think it comes down to how the bottom 2 boards are gonna do in the later rounds.
Yes, for sure. We are seeing the game start off over here, and I think we can take another little look at Sean's at board 1.
Yeah, Sean's playing the board 3 from Yale. This is the team captain, Maxim Yaskolka, who is also part of Chess.com's college ambassador program, which is pretty cool. And he's definitely been leading the team. He's been organizing, making sure everyone's showing up on the matches at the same time, at the right time. And a lot of credit to him. He's been the captain for a couple seasons now. And he's also been organizing a lot of Ivy League championship tournaments over the board, actually.
That's amazing. I really respect that. Good for him. And also, huge thank you to him for hosting all these collegiate chess programs. Right now, he is playing against 2B Grandmaster Sean Rodriguez Lemieux, but I don't like this f6 move. F6 doesn't strike me as a move I would want to play in this position, considering weakens a lot of the light squares along this diagonal. And also at the same time, you don't really ever want to push up d5 because then you're stuck with this backwards pawn. Sorry, e5, because then you're stuck with this backwards pawn on d6. So I'm actually not entirely sure about f6. I understand it's a good place to park the knight, but it feels a little bit passive to me.
Yeah, I agree. F6 is typically not a move that is recommended or that you want to see your play. But as you mentioned, his knight went there, and he was definitely anticipating your fellow Canadian to play queen d2 with a punch on his knight on h6, which maybe should have been on there to begin with. Maybe better, though, is moving his king in the corner for the knight to g8, but like it's messy either way.
It definitely can be messy either way, and we're still very, very early on, so Maxime has a lot of time to make a comeback in this position. But one of the things that I have talked about with Sean is that he's very, very consistent and very solid. So when he gets that slight advantage, he's very unlikely to let it go. And a slight positional advantage is actually a really big deal in these type of games. You're not going to see for the most part, anybody blunder a major piece or a minor or, pawns or anything like that, you're just going to see small increments in the improvement of your position. And when that's the case, you just don't want these type of weaknesses. You just don't want to have to worry about that. Now the knight has to go back to c6, and Sean has got an extra b3 in. He might even try to play c4 and then get the Marazzi pawn structure that's so infamous.
Yeah, that's really good analysis, and we see the Knights are being traded off here. I did want to mention we talked a little bit about Maxime, who is team captain for Yale and organizing a lot of events. But I actually see UTRGV's team captain in the chess.com chat, so not able to play. He is David Ortiz, not to be confused with the baseball player. But David is the team captain for UTRGV. He graduated, but he's still captaining the team, and he's actually helping host the Pan Ams, which is coming up in January. So if you're a college player and you want to check out Pan Ams and register, that is actually going to be hosted really close by to UTRGV and help organized by David. So feel free to reach out to him.
Wow, that's really cool. So you're allowed to help organize a team post graduation. That's very sweet.
Yeah, so your captains are technically players, but you're also allowed to have coaches. So technically, David is one of the coaches. Coaches are captains that can't play. So we know that like Mizzou has a coach, right?
Right,
With
right.
Christian Chirilla, who was actually on our college chess podcast on Thursday or Wednesday, but earlier this week. But yeah, a lot of these teams have coaches. A lot of the schools that don't have coaches simply just have captains, and teams also have both sometimes.
Yeah, it's absolutely great to see. And Sean is actually going to trade his positional advantage for a free pawn. And this is a really interesting idea because after b6, you might be like, oh, well, this bishop is trapped. So now white has to spend a little time to get that bishop out, but it looks like after queen e3, it's a very exciting position because a lot can happen here. There's f5 with the idea of attacking the c3 knight, where the rook is still sitting on c8, and there's bishop discovered attacks. So this game is not that clear, but bishop takes a7 is definitely a sign where Sean is going to start pushing his advantage. So this is actually a really interesting game, but I do want to take a quick look at bird's eye view before any of the games finish, before we've even had a chance to look at them this time around.
We're learning here, chat. We're trying to get
We're
all the
getting
games.
there. It's hard with 5+2. I have to
It's
admit.
hard. Yeah, it's splits. There's 4 games all at the same
Mhm.
time. The players are playing fast. Do you think that they're still maybe a little nervous? Do you think that the nerves are starting to calm down, or do you think they're going to be fully ready once we get to the second half?
I think they're going to be fully ready when we get to the second half. I mean, when you are in the national master or a grandmaster or even any chess player that's playing in Division 1, I think you must have played a lot of chess, and I think, you can still get nervous sometimes, but your chess doesn't get affected as much by that. That being said, Gleb Duden seems like he is absolutely crushing his position. So I do want to take a very quick look at that because the position itself might not look that clear. You might be asking, why is white winning in this? And actually, I am also asking myself, why is white winning in this?
Luckily, we have the latest chess technology, the computers, to tell us. But yeah, I mean, first glance, looks like roughly even material, right? White's probably going to put a rook on g1 opposite both black's queen and king. So I'm expecting a king move maybe from white at some point. But I'm not seeing exactly a knockout blow just yet.
There's no knockout blow because this is one of those positions where having the pair bishops in a slightly close position is actually really good. And it's all because black has all of these really weak dark squares. Sorry, all his pawns are on the light squares, as you can see. And he also has a light square bishop, right? So I really like bishop to a3 for white because it means that you can go potentially bishop to c5, and this knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. And black is just going to be so passive. There's not much that black can really do in this position. It definitely feels like it's white's game. Like black's idea is going to be try to play along the G file, maybe try to play along the H file, but he is going to get absolutely crushed on these dark squares. If he ever gets his bishop to e7 and his bishop to f6, it's just game over for black in an instant. And I think that's one of those things where it's so important to remember that pair bishops can be really strong, even in a close position.
Yeah, so we see that idea bishop to d4, hitting the knight. The knight goes backwards, pretty much underdeveloping. And so that rook in the corner is going to have a tough time getting into the game. Maybe the bishop goes to c5, just boxing out that knight. What do you think about that idea?
I do like that idea. I don't think it quite works at this current moment due to b6. So I really like queen to f2 because he was trying to swing the queen over to h4. But here, after potentially c takes t5, c takes d5, then maybe you can play rook to c1 and bring your last piece into the attack. And right now, I like your idea a lot of like keeping the knight away from being able to play e7. But even if the knight gets to e7, where can it really go, right? Um,
Ooh, I have an idea. I love this queen f2 because I want to play knight h4, clearing the f3 square for our bishop,
mhm.
and I want to sacrifice on f5. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very, very good idea. I don't know if you have time. That's the only issue. I think after knight h4, maybe there's knight to e7, which directly prevents your idea, but I think it's still a good idea. I don't know. Maybe Gleb is trying to go knight to d3 and knight to c5 instead and go for
Mm,
the weaker e6 pawn. Um, but I actually think I prefer your idea. So, Joe, why
wow.
don't you step in?
No, no, no. Usually I say something and then like whatever happens on the board is really bad and people blame me for everything. So that's what I'm used to. Wow, the computer's actually changing its mind here a little bit.
I think king h2 is too slow. His idea is bishop f3. But after knight to h6, now if you go bishop to f3, there is knight to g4, which is not a
Wow.
free knight because it's pinned. Don't forget to do your tactics and your daily puzzle rush and all that stuff.
And that comes with a fork, so you kind of have to take it with something at least.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think king to h2 is just a tad too slow. Now that I've said it's a tad too slow, I think the better move instead of king to h2 here could have been to just trade off the queen, knowing that this knight to h6, knight to g4 idea is happening. But he does it a move late, which, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this position anymore because how do you get this knight away from g4? The problem with, king h2 and the fact that it feels natural is that knights are tricky and you can't take this knight. How are you going to get it out? I don't actually see a way to get it out, which is very unfortunate for black. I mean, for white, sorry.
Yeah, actually, this game's getting under a minute, and it's crazy. Duden, the IM, has not found a knockout despite having such a great position. We were just saying how good this was for White, and now the tables have completely flipped and turned. And I also want to mention Siddharth, board four. He's actually a national master, so let's definitely give him some credit. He's a titled player, and so he's definitely beaten stronger title players before. And maybe he missed a knockout here.
I think just keeping the knight on g4 is really the knockout because I don't think white can ever take it. You just take with the f pawn. So maybe also knight to h6 would have been fine, but knight to f2 feels like white is letting being led back into the game. There's black is easing up the pressure, but it is blitz. There's only 8 seconds left for Siddharth. I don't blame him for making any of the decisions he's currently making. It's very tough to play these positions with a few seconds left on your clock, and he's actually decided to go for this imbalanced endgame. And it's balanced because white has the two rooks versus the queen. Otherwise, material is equal. Material is equal regardless. It's just a material imbalance. But I think this is going to be a fairly interesting position.
Oh, I mean, for sure. Typically, rooks people say are valued more or better. It obviously depends on the position, but in this time scramble, Nemo, who do you take?
I would say queen, honestly, in a time scramble. I think it's so much easier to accidentally get your pieces forked with a queen. But that being said, I take back what I said because I don't think I like h5. This this feels very
Ooh.
okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be it. That bishop,
Ouch.
you didn't want to take on e5, and the rooks were gonna double on the g file. Yeah, white's gonna finish that one off. So Siddharth maybe missing some chances there. Really back and forth, close game. But let's take a quick look at the bird's eye as the results are rolling in here.
Oh, that was an exciting game. We do see that win coming in for Sean. He did manage to win that slightly better position, as well as we just saw Gleb take down Siddharth, but Lyndon has unfortunately dropped his game against
Yeah, we have that
Deacon.
last game against Checa, and it's not looking good for him either. We could see a Texas sweep over the Ivy League team.
Yeah, I am definitely feeling better about my prediction, but at the very same time, it was really nice seeing Yale tie against, UTRGV in the very first round. We are actually going to see Yakub. Whoa,
You think Checa's gonna go for some stalemate?
he has to. The only issue is if
He's
Black
gotta push
didn't
his pawn.
if Black didn't have this pawn on h6 and the pawn was one move, like one square over, it's a theoretical draw. It might be it might have been. I don't think it's a theoretical draw with the pawn on h3, but it could have been. So I'm talking purely hypothetical here. But
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, with Black having this pawn on h5, it is absolutely winning for Yakub.
So you believe in fortresses?
If the pawn wasn't on h5 and the pawn was on g3, yes, I believe in fortresses.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I haven't read enough of Dvoretsky, but from what I have read of Dvoretsky, I think any pawn that's on B through G is a draw when you have the rook, and on H and A, it's not. But I could be wrong. Once again, I have not looked at Dvoretsky in a very long time.
Yeah, this is I mean, it's not so easy to close this out with less than 10 seconds. So I think Black can do it, but there's obviously a reason why Checa's playing on here. He's got some chances.
He does. I definitely agree that it's not easy. But I'm just talking about table base. Not that we all care about table base, but I do personally care about table base. It does mean that we're going to be here for a while. Black has the ideas to win. He needs to move his king a little bit closer or maybe wrap around and capture the h3 pawn. The moment that this pawn drops, it is game over for for Nicolas, and Nicolas is going to do everything he can to hold on to it.
I think he's gonna try a Rosen trap.
Yeah, he needs to. He needs to try a Rosen trap.
For sure.
Unfortunately, I think with
Ooh,
there's a lot of Zogzwan ideas is the other problem here, but Yakub is still struggling a little bit. With the 2-second increment, though, he does have the ability to basically stock up on time and then spend it on his moves. And now you can see that the
I love Queen H2.
yeah, Queen
Yeah, that's
H2.
just forcing the king out of the corner.
Yep, exactly. And now this H3 pawn is much more vulnerable, and you have to be so careful with not losing your queen. I mean, sorry, losing your rook in a fork when your king is separated from your rook. So this is going to be a little hard. I think Queen E4 would have been really interesting here too, but Yakub is just slowly doing it. He's not taking any chances, and he doesn't need to take any chances. The other
I'm
idea here.
trying to find this stalemate.
Unfortunately, you can't stalemate when the king's also not in the corner. So that's another reason why queen to h2 was so good for Black, because the king's no longer in the corner. How's it gonna get stalemated? It has so many squares to go to.
If you were Jacob here, would you be a little frustrated? Like, come on, like just get your rook lost already. Like he's putting up so much resistance here.
He is putting up so much resistance here. He really is.
It looks like we're seeing some sort of pattern. They've now moved all the way over. Would you take like rook check and pick up the h pawn if you're white?
Yeah, well, also Yakub has to remember that there's a 50 move rule in effect, right? So he moved his pawn on move 88, and now we're on move 105, so he's pretty safe. But oh, queen takes
Oh,
e3. There we go. Okay, he's
that
doing
was
good.
his chance for the Rosen trap. He had king a1.
Oh, he could have tried king a1. You're actually completely
Oh,
right. He could have tried king to a1. He could have
come on,
attempted king to
Checa.
a1, but it's unlikely that Yakub would have fallen for that. It's unlikely.
Oh, but still, that was your best chance.
Worth trying though, for sure. Worth trying.
Any Rosen fans in the chat? I mean, I would count myself as one. I'm kind of disappointed. All that work and not even playing king a1.
Yeah.
That would have been legendary.
Yeah, it's all good. It is all good. It happens. But that does mean that we have round by round scores for round 2. We have UTRGV at 6 and Yale only having 2. They unfortunately didn't do so well this round.
Yeah, they got swept, Nemo.
They got swept.
4 wins.
We can say it.
Well, there's still 2 more rounds left, and we typically take a break here between round 2 and 3. So maybe this Yale team can recuperate and get the second half back in their favor.
For sure. And who do you think actually played the best today? Who do you think stood out so far?
Well,
we've seen 2
with
games.
2 rounds, I mean, your buddy Sean has done well, right? 2-0.
He definitely has. I think Sean has done very well. He had, well, we didn't see the rest of his game, but it looked like he won the pawn and won the game. So he has been playing extremely solid. I do also want to say it was very interesting watching Duden's game. He didn't play the most exact, but when he had the chances, he found the tactics and won. And unfortunately, Nico is not having the best performance at this current moment. He had a very tough matchup, obviously, as well, but you know, it's looking a little tough for you.
As to be expected, definitely a tough matchup for them.
For sure. But we are going to be going on break very soon. But don't forget that Julius Baer Women's Speed Chess Championship begins this Monday, November 13th. 8 of the fastest women in the game will fight for the crown, but they're not the only ones with the chance to win big. You can submit a bracket for the WSCC for a shot at Diamond membership, which we all love. But hurry, submissions close when the games begin on Monday. Use command WSCC in the chess.com chat to make your predictions now, and we will be back very soon.
Research is made! Oh my gosh! That is the swindle of the century!
Oh my goodness!
He did it!
Wow! What alertness!
Yeah, let's go! Forward, F5.
Oh my gosh! She's winning now!
He's backwards. Oh, what a beautiful
taking the control of H2.
Oh no! Mercy! Go for the knight 3, knight 3! She made it work!
Oh, 3h6 mate!
Oh my.
Oh my land.
The king had to go to H3, but she missed! Goodness me!
Still a chance. Rook F7. Oh, whoa, no! No!
Welcome back to the quarterfinals of the 2023 Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. Don't forget, use gaming skills in your career. Apply at sig.com/chess. So right now we are watching UTRGV face off against Yale. The winner of this match will take on UT Dallas in the semifinals November 18th. But we have even more chess for you after this. St. Louis University is going to be playing Columbia. The winner of that match will be taking on Mizzou in the semifinals November 18th. And Joe, how do you feel about everything so far? How do you feel about the games today?
Well, we've only seen 2 rounds. I think that first round we were impressed. Yale held it tight, 2-2, and this second round, I think UTRGV is feeling a bit more comfortable and their usual selves. They swept 4-0. So I'm hoping Yale actually can bring it back. I don't want to see another sweep, and kind of my predictions relying on that. So I think if Yale can maybe tie the last 2 rounds, that'll be what I predicted, right? 10-6.
Yes, somewhere around there.
So fingers crossed. I definitely think Yale's going to get some more points, but it's been a tough second round. But luckily for them, they get a little bit of a break between the rounds to kind of recuperate, take a breather, and we see round 3 is now underway.
We do, and round 3 is going to be really important because, well, we do know how the games have been going so far, and unfortunately, after their very convincing round 1 performance, Yale has slipped a little bit in round 2, so maybe round 3 is where they make the comeback?
For sure. I mean, it's either going to be this one or the next one. And if not, they're going to be done for the season. This is an elimination match. You mentioned semifinals coming up next week. That's going to be very exciting. The winner of this is going to play against the season winner, UT Dallas. So I think we're going to see this Texas rivalry come back where Dallas actually beat UTRGV in a very close matchup in the regular season. These 2 teams, they're both from Texas, of course. They're both scholarship teams. That's going to be a very exciting match to see. But RGV has to beat Yale first, so they've got these last 2 rounds to do it.
They do. RGV has to beat Yale, and I'm not actually sure where we're going to see in terms on the boards, which games that would be. But Sean is going into this position with once again a Queen's Gambit decline, and is playing fairly aggressively. I mean, he's attacking the knight on c3, and he's already got double pawns on the f file. Man, there's probably some heavy prep going on here. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Neither side has castled yet. This is a Queen's Gambit declined Rogozin defense. Do you have any opening knowledge on that?
It's really only a Rogozin because the bishop is on b4. If it's not on b4, it's not a Rogozin. Oh, sorry, bishop b4, bishop g5. It's a Rogozin. But I don't really know the theory precisely for the Queen's Gambit decline. There's so many lines here, and I usually play the Nimzo, but I do think that this position is very comfortable for Black to play. There's no issues whatsoever. Once again, Sean is going for the queen trade. He has shown that he is very okay with playing these positions as Black. These no pressure, there's no shot that White has any attacks here type scenarios where he just has the pair of bishops. If you guys remember in the very first game, it was also a deep pawn game, and he went for the exact same style of position, the pair of bishops, the equal pawns on both sides, the end game. And I think that he plays these positions really well. And part of it is because he's a grandmaster, and you get to a grandmaster because you're able to squeeze out the smallest edge in a lot of these positions. And we're seeing that right now.
Yeah. So, just like looking at this, maybe not in the same lens as a GM or a title player or anything like that, but I see that White has castled, right? Their king is behind these 3 pawns, playing in the center, right? Totally solid and normal. Black, meanwhile, they've got doubled F pawns. Their king isn't castled and in the center, but they have an open G file, right? And I think that the rooks are going to be very happy there to attack White's king. So all in all, fairly even position, but I love that Linden is up on the time. he's got the white pieces. He's playing more like traditionally or standard, and he's definitely um, giving Sean a lot of fight and some issues. And we see actually maybe Sean setting up some sort of trap with this B pawn, saying, "Hey, take my pawn with tempo on my rook." But as you're highlighting, rook from D to B8 will win that material back with some initiative.
It's actually really interesting. I like Joe's line here with knight takes b7, and potentially if the knight moves, you do win the b2 pawn. But what about bishop takes a6? This becomes really complicated all of a sudden, and you just actually end up trading a lot of pieces with this line. And I don't think that's actually bad for white. I don't know what Lyndon's game plan was going into this game. I don't know if he's playing for a win. But personally, I would say if I was playing for a draw in this position as white, which is, I know, a little ridiculous to say because you're thinking, oh, it's white, you should be playing for a win. You can simplify using this line. And there's not actually anything wrong with simplifying as white sometimes, especially if you realize that you're getting into a little bit of a pickle. So I'm actually really curious here if Lyndon calculates the entirety of this line, which he might be doing with his time at this current moment. But no, he plays b4.
Before, I mean, there's a lot of that same line to be calculated because he's now threatening knight takes b7 without the fear of losing his b pawn. So this is nice, a nice solid kind of like a waiting move to see how black will respond, because again, black gets a lot of that counterplay if the rook makes it to b2. So I think b4 is a very solid choice here from Lyndon.
I like b4 too. It just goes into this endgame and he has a very, good fighting chance. But unfortunately, black is the one playing for a win, and with the pair of bishops, it's just a matter of time before he's really able to open up this position and get them in full use. This knight is not going to be able to stay on d6 for that long. Once the light square bishop moves, the knight has to leave. But I do agree with chat. Lyndon games are always fun. He has this play style that always makes something happen. And even though this is an end game, there's still a lot of tactics, as we just saw. And it's very obvious that this is far from over. But let's take a quick look at bird's eye view as we let these two battle out their end game.
Wow, that board 4 looks like there's something going wrong for the Yale captain.
Yale captain in a bit of a pickle.
There's been a couple pickles so far today, and you see his hands on his face and his opponent just taking a sip of water there, very calm and collected. So this is basically the face of the team, right, for Yale.
Hey, maybe he likes pickles. What do you know about that?
I mean, whether or not you like pickles, I don't think that anyone wants to be in a pickle.
It's true. It is true. This is an ugly position for black, unfortunately. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Your king is pretty exposed. The rook is just eyeing, cutting off the entire h file. Now, actually, with queen takes c4, there are no squares where the black king can legally go to at this very current moment, and that's not great if your king is this exposed. I always like this analogy. It sounds better in Polish, but the king has a barn right now. Usually he has a castle, now he has a barn. And I think after d5, I don't even know where this knight's going to go. Can you even move the knight? You lose the c pawn. It looks so ugly. Yeah, I think
Well, I mean,
95 is basically like your only move. You don't want to lose, and then you just play queen takes f7, and then all of a sudden you have 96 threats because it's a
oof.
fork, because this is pin. Ouch. This is so unbelievably uncomfortable for black to play. Luckily for Maxime, white doesn't actually play that and plays rook h3, surely with the idea of playing rook to h1, followed by rook to h7, checkmate.
Yeah, white doesn't even have to go for the direct d5. White has a lot of winning options and ideas, including taking full advantage of the h file, like you're pointing out. Doubling is going to be very aggressive, and there's always d5 in your back pocket, and that's going to ultimately cost Maxime a lot of time and energy just to think about, how do I even stop the rooks on the h file? I'm going to have to play like rook h8, and then maybe he hits you with d5. Maybe he just trades. you're in a world of hurt here, and you can see it on Maxime's face.
Yeah, Maxime not having the best day thus far, but I think Ekin's game has been a very good example of how you should attack when you have the initiative. Making full usage of the opponent's exposed king, pushing up d5, not letting anything rush you. He played g3 to secure the knight on f4, not doing anything too fancy, knowing that he can always win this pawn on c7. And it's definitely looking very much like it's White's world, really. It's there's nothing that Black can do, unfortunately. There's no counterplay whatsoever in compensation for this pawn. It's the second pawn that Maxime has lost, by the way. Pain. Pain. Actual pain.
Yeah, queen comes back. Is now the time for 96?
I
No?
mean, I think 96
Oh,
looks
maybe right now. Yep,
okay,
there
we
it
go.
is.
Okay, because it cuts off the knight
Exactly.
on d5, so free
He just
knight
wins on the spot.
for White.
We might
Yeah.
see resigns here.
Before we see resigns, I'm okay. Well, I was gonna say I was happy to see the bird's eye view, but we do see the resign, so we will go to bird's eye view regardless. But definitely feeling a little bit bad for Maxime. He's had 2 very tough games, and I don't think he's played poorly. I think his opponents have just taken their opportunities and really like drove that, you know? Like they get the initiative, and then it's much easier to play blitz with the initiative, I would say. But let's take a quick
Yeah.
look at Nicolas. We haven't seen him that much this round yet, and he looks like he's currently winning.
Yeah, he's doing great, and that's exactly what Yale needs. But I think after that last point, and we do see resigns here, or a flag, I guess, technically,
Flag.
but a win nonetheless. So Checa still keeping the team alive, but barely. We need a win from Linden here for any chance of a comeback. So UTRGV, they've gotten their 8 points they need for a guaranteed tie. They just need a half point to secure the win.
For sure. We're going to be jumping over to Linden's game in a brief second over there. I mean, I think Sean is once again pushing for that win.
Yeah, he's pushing for the win, and he's trying to start pushing some pawns as well. It's technically even material, but look at those dark bishops on the edge of the board. Look at that past B pawn.
Yeah, this is once again a world of pain for White to play. It's just so hard to play endgames when you have to defend all the time. Like the smallest slip up, and then all of a sudden your game is completely gone. At this current moment, Black can't just like push his pawn because the B1 promotion square is controlled, and also the bishop on A3 hangs if you ever push your B pawn. But this
Nice
knight,
move here from Sean. F5.
F5. If bishop takes, you drop the knight. So now Sean.
Check. Very
Wow.
clean.
Wow.
We're seeing this grandmaster technique here, putting the pieces in, as you would call it, a pickle.
Yeah. Pickle's the word of the
And,
day.
Yeah, we're seeing. Oh, look at the bishop. We're gonna see bishop c3. Yeah,
No
this king needs some
checkmate.
space.
No checkmate because F4 is giving a White that last square it needs access
Yeah.
to. But
Black's gonna play e3 here.
yeah, I love using the word pickle for these games because it really feels like they're getting in a pickle, right? It really feels like you're sitting there and you're like, ah, frick, how did I end up in this situation? That's what I would be
there goes the
asking
rook.
myself.
Oh my goodness, that's it actually. UTRGV has officially won, and they're moving on to face their state rivals UT Dallas in the semifinals. But before that, we still have round 4, which is traditionally played out as long as Yale wants to play it. So
They don't have
don't go
to.
just yet.
They don't have to play it.
Well, we require all rounds to be played, but
Okay.
I mean, if they just left, there's really, what are we gonna do? They're already eliminated, right?
That's true. So unfortunately, it has been a little bit of a slaughter for not in Yale's favor, I would say, not in Yale's favor, but UTRGV does have 9 versus 3, and what was your prediction? 10 to
10-6. So I need a 3-1 upset win here from Yale in this final round.
chat. You think we're gonna see
You-
that?
We both need Yale to win this last round.
I think I went with 10.5 to 5.5.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so mine's like a little bit better, but it's still so hard. It's so hard. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be by far the best chance Yale has to get to our predicted scores. I think it's very hard considering we have seen UTRGV absolutely crush it today. I just want to say, I mean, Sean has played spectacular. He has played nothing too aggressive. He's just gotten that slight advantage and converted. And, you know,
Mhm. Yeah, he's the only player with the perfect score.
yes, he is the only player with a
Maybe
perfect score.
maybe he knew that you would be commentating, and he's like, I gotta perform for my fellow Canadian.
Absolutely. I'm sure that's the reason. But yeah, UTRGV is University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, not to be confused with UT Dallas, which is also another really, really strong school. But we do have kickoff for game for round 4. Unfortunately, UTRGV might have already clinched the victory, but they're gonna battle it out regardless. So, you know, Nico is out here playing on his trackpad, it appears. You saw that,
Yeah,
yeah?
and I want.
He looked like he was playing on trackpad.
Oh boy, he's giving mouse odds.
Yeah, he's definitely giving mouse odds. I hadn't noticed this earlier because we would tune in his game so late, but it definitely looks like he's playing on trackpad.
Well,
I
that could be the reason for the performance.
yeah. I am personally not a fan of trackpad chessing. That seems not fun.
We need to get a mouse sponsor to hook up the players with some better technology.
Yeah, any chess.com Logitech partnerships upcoming?
Name dropping. So,
Name dropping.
well, I did want to give you guys kind of a glimpse, a sneak peek preview into the semifinals with UTRGV taking on UT Dallas, the season winners. They actually already played earlier in the season, way back in September, actually. It might have been the first or second week. Dallas won that by a score of 9.5 to 6.5. So it was fairly close, actually. And it's been so long since then. It's been like 2 months. A lot of things change, and like you mentioned, one of the Texas players, your Canadian friend Sean, has actually gotten his GM norm. So the players improved throughout the season. The teams are different. The lineups might have changed. So that matchup could be really anyone's. And I'm excited to see if Dallas can hold on to their top seed spot or if UTRGV is going to get their revenge and take them down.
Yeah, sorry, this game just ended in a draw. Obviously, there was no real purpose to play. Honest, Nico, a win isn't going to change the result, so they have agreed to a draw. But we're going to go to bird's eye view, and I think as to what Joe was talking about, I hope you guys have been following the Collegiate Chess League. And I hope you guys will follow future seasons of the Collegiate Chess League because it's been really exciting. And I know you might hear collegiate and be like, "Oh, well, who's really playing the Collegiate Chess League?" But it's been all like grandmasters, international masters. These are some of the best chess players in both the US and outside of the US. A lot of these players are coming in from other countries, as we have seen with the UTRGV team. They are very multinational, they're a very international team. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the Collegiate Chess League as much as we have.
Yeah, it's definitely been a blast. And as the Yale team wraps up their season, I do want to give them a huge shout out. Congratulations to them. They had a tremendous season. They didn't place maybe as high as they wanted to, but they made playoffs in a very tight race between the top 8 schools in the Collegiate Chess League in total out of over 300 teams. So major props to them for making it this far. And they definitely put on a huge show, especially in their takedown of Mizzou, and give this Yale team a lot of credit for basically motivating Mizzou to bring their A game. And we're going to see them play next week. So Yale definitely made an impact, and I can't wait to see them join back again next season, bigger and stronger.
Absolutely. And we're actually going to be tuning into this game between Lyndon Lee and Gleb Duden. I have to say, Lyndon has been one of my favorite players to watch this season. And despite not having a title, which I don't, he doesn't have a
Lyndon
title.
is titled.
He is
He's
titled.
a national master, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. He is national master. Sorry, he is titled. And he is going for the attack. It's the last round of his season, and he is not shying away from a very aggressive attack. It might not be fully sound. That's a different story, but he's going for it, and I like that because it's, once again, it's Blitz, right? And Blitz, okay, apart from Magnus Carlsen and obviously all those people really high ranked up there, you're not really that worried about playing the perfect move every single move because you just can't. You don't have enough time to calculate that. So I really have been enjoying the way that Lyndon plays. He just goes for it every single game, really.
And I see Kim Stud in the chat saying that Lyndon is his favorite player to watch. And for those of you that don't know, Kim Stud's actually a streamer on the Yale C team. So good to see the fellow teammates from Yale's lower teams tuning in to cheer on their A team, giving it their last round of their season. And even though Yale A team is eliminated, Yale definitely still has some other teams to cheer on in the playoffs, and they still have some chances to win prizes of their own.
Yeah, don't forget, this is not the only division in the Collegiate Chess League. That's my favorite fun fact about the Collegiate Chess League. I've been shocked every single time as to hearing how many divisions Joe manages in the Collegiate Chess League. So props to him. But this game, I mean, I don't know if Lyndon's actually planned all of this out with giving up his B pawn, but his idea was to be able to access the B file. Unfortunately, Rook b5 takes means that he no longer has this opportunity. Absolutely cannot swap off queens in this position, right? Because you are trying to play for an aggressive attack. And if you swap off queens, then you're going into a worse endgame. So queen to h3, very practical decision by Lyndon.
Yeah, these two last national masters from Yale are fighting on because they know that they both need to win for my prediction to come true. So shout out to both of them. If they both win, you're going to have to give me some subs.
Yeah, exactly. If they both win, I'll have to gift you some subs. And if they both win, I'll be happy to gift you some subs, Joe.
Hold on. Someone is David still in the chat? Let the team know that maybe they could resign early for some points for Yale. I'll give some subs to them as well.
Yeah, okay. He's gonna spread it out.
Just
This
kidding,
is a
just
little,
kidding.
yeah.
Well, for you, if one is a draw and one is a win for Yale, then I actually have to give you some subs. So there's
It's
still something to
true.
fight for here.
There is something to fight for here. I actually really like the practical chances that Lyndon can still have in this position. He's obviously going for the a2 pawn. The engine is not a huge fan of Lyndon's position because his own king is a little bit exposed as well. And also going into this endgame, this queen is just so powerful on d4. You have a strong center. Black doesn't really have any pawns in the center. And I always like to say that these four squares are the center. So what White's doing a little bit better here, but it's not that clear. I don't think it's as clear as the engine thinks it is.
Yeah, I think if Lyndon can grab the a pawn, like White's king isn't so secure either, right? So you have the strong center with the pawn duo, but at the cost of having pushed the f pawn, maybe the king's a little weak. But it's definitely very difficult for Lyndon to access the king. And interestingly, Duden spent a ton of time on this move. He's down to a minute. Like Lyndon has twice as much time.
Yeah, Lyndon does have twice as much time, and I really like knight to c5 because you're just going for the e4 pawn. I think it's a very logical move. But
watch out for knight f6.
Watch out for knight f6. You don't want to fall for this fork. I think rook b8 here makes a lot of sense because you want to go for the b5 pawn. Now you're just sort of like toggling between different threats as black and seeing where white's going to potentially make a mistake. It's very, very hard in chess, obviously, to win without your opponent making some slight slip up. That's why we get so many draws at the very high levels. I am not sure about this move. I mean, queen d4, queen h8. We're going for a checkmate.
Ooh, that That's a big oversight from Linden. So I would be surprised if Duden doesn't pounce on this and be, oh, goes knight in instead, but still good for white. Definitely
Still
queen
goes
d4
right.
was a stronger punch.
Yeah. Usually going for that checkmate is not a bad idea, but this also is very effective because you get this pawn with a tempo, and then when king g7 happens, you actually bring the knight back, you swing it back with a tempo. And these tempi are really important for white because you're not only improving the position of knight, but you also grabbed an extra pawn. So now it's once again white's turn, and white can consider playing e5 even. I don't know how comfortable he is playing that with his king on f2, but everything is protected. There's nothing. It's all like safe. So
Yeah, and there is still that last game being played, game 4, if we wanted to take a quick look at that.
we'll take a quick look at bird's eye first, and then we are going to jump into and we actually get a result before we're able to tune in, but Ekin has won. He was up a rook. So I don't know how that happened, but unfortunate finish for Siddharth. I feel like he has some very close opportunities in this match, and they just kind of slipped away from him, which happens, but it's still very sad nonetheless.
Okay, so what does that mean for the predictions?
It means that we both lost. It means that once again, we are not Benjamin Bok, and we are not as good as him at predicting the results of these games, but that's all right. That's okay. Here, you know, after rook to d7, queen takes c5, there is this idea with queen to h2 and potentially some rook to d2 and like going for checkmate, but it's so slow. I actually don't see much here for black. I mean, you still have this rook d3 trick as black, but don't forget white has a full knight now. So
Also, don't forget Linden can go for the flag
it's true.
as Duden's low on time.
It's true. You can always go for the flag.
And okay, let's think of it another way. Obviously, the results in the match is over, but if you were Duden and Linden offered a draw, would you would you close this out and still play for the win, or would you just take the draw?
I would play this out for a win.
Yeah. All right.
Always.
And to be fair, the points for the match maybe don't matter anymore for standings or the match result, but I do want to mention that there are prediction brackets out, and the tiebreak is the cumulative score of the winner. So all these scores are going to be added up and used as the match tiebreaks for the prediction bracket challenge. Okay, we have resigns here. That's the final match for Yale this season. So props to them. But congrats to UTRGV for moving on to the semifinals, where they've guaranteed themselves at least $500 plus a chance for more when they take on Dallas next week.
I honestly, these have been some very exciting games, Joe. Despite the fact that UTRGV sort of started crushing after round 1, I think today's games have been really instructional, and huge congratulations to Yale for getting as far as they have this season. I think the standout for me personally was Rodrigue Lemieux, and I would say he's the MVP of this match. What would you think, Joe?
For sure, I agree. He led the team in points, only getting that draw in the last round that didn't really matter against Yale's Grandmaster. So it's going to be very exciting to see how they do against Dallas next weekend. Can they get their revenge from the regular season? Can they put an end to this Dallas lead so far? I can't wait to find out.
I think UTRGV advancing into the semis, playing off into Dallas actually is going to be a really exciting lineup again, matchup again, because, well, maybe we'll see Sean play next week and maybe he'll have as good of a performance. But don't forget, UT Dallas is also extremely, extremely strong. If you have seen them play earlier this season, they were good, to say the least. So it will be all really exciting. But we're not going to let you guys go just yet. Don't forget the chess.com College Ambassador Program is back. If you are a college student who wants to help grow chess on your college campus, join the team and get the backing of chess.com at your school. Benefits include diamond membership, exclusive chess.com merch, career opportunities, and even meeting chess celebrities. For all of the details, use Command CAP in chat. Don't forget to check out if your school has a chess program.
Also, speaking of the ambassador program, we actually have the standings of how much these clubs have been growing this school year. So look at that, University of Benin all the way at the top with over 1,000 people joining their club since June. Look at how much they've grown. Again, to learn more about how your school and the chess club can get involved, go to chess.com for additional details. And don't go just yet. We'll be right back with some interviews.
I'm International Master Alex Banza, and I'll be presenting you Silman's complete endgame course from beginner to master. Besides what you will see from Mr. Silman, I'm gonna try to do my best and share with you some of the insights that I managed to steal from my coach. Trust me, you have never really imagined something like this could be compared to chess. You will notice that the difficulty of these positions will kind of increase exponentially as long as we progress with the series. Let the games begin. Knight takes on a3, bishop takes on a3, knight b5, targeting your bishop, targeting the pawn. You have to keep the bishop on the diagonal. Knight takes on c3, defending my pawn. Knight e2, but after the stunning knight to b1, threatening pawn to a3, pawn to c3, threatening b2, threatening a2. There is just no way to stop. Improve your endgames and start crushing your opponents with this very evil playstyle.
The Variance Community Series continues on November 2nd with 3-Check, where you can not only win by checkmating your opponent, but also checking them 3 times. 6 weekly arena tournaments held every Thursday will be followed by a championship event with cash prizes, including a $1,000 first place prize. The third and final weekly arenas will be streamer arenas featuring gifted subs as prizes. Win any of these events to qualify for the championship and show the world what you've got. Join the Variance Club today to learn more about upcoming events, how to participate, and much, much more. See you in the arena on chess.com.
I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis. I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Collegiate Chess League's first round of playoffs this season. We just watched UTRGV take down Yale, and we're about to watch SLU take on Columbia. But before we do that, it's time for our Career Opportunities for Enthusiasts segment presented by SIG. I'm joined by the very impressive and well-known two-time U.S. champion, Patrick Wolf. Patrick, it's an honor to have you here. Obviously, you're a grandmaster. You've been in chess for a very long time. Your resume is super impressive. And you also do a lot of private investing after you've retired from chess. So tell us a little bit about what your relationship is with chess nowadays, now that you're retired from competitive play, and maybe tell us a little bit more about what exactly you do for work.
Sure. Well, so I did play professionally back in the old days, in the late 80s and early 1990s. As you said, I was U.S. chess champion twice, in 1992 and 1995. I was Vishy Anand's second for a couple of his matches, including his 1995 World Chess Championship match against Kasparov. I wrote a couple books. So I definitely played for a while. I retired really full time after I graduated from college in 1997. I went from there. I was in business for several years, worked for a couple of companies, and then worked at a hedge fund here in San Francisco for 5.5 years, from 2005 to 2010. I then launched my own hedge fund, ran that for 4.5 years. I then went back to work for the person I had been working for, Peter Thiel, and worked for him in his family office for another couple of years. Left there about 6.5 years ago. I now do my own investing. I also have gotten very involved in local politics in San Francisco, and I do still follow the game of chess. And some folks may know, I played in the U.S. Senior Chess Championship this summer in St. Louis, which was a lot of fun. That was my first over-the-board chess tournament in years and years and years and years.
How did you do in that tournament?
Well, I finished in the middle. I lost my first 3 games, which was obviously brutal. But I then came back. I was +2 out of my next 6. So I finished -1, kind of in the middle. Respectable, and obviously some strong competition. And I was just happy, especially in the middle and the latter part of the tournament, to be able to play some good games.
That's so cool. And speaking of tough competition, I saw that you actually beat Garry Kasparov in a simul with the black pieces. Would you consider that your best win?
Well, I don't know if it's my best win, but it's probably my best known, and it was definitely a great game. So yeah, in 1987, so Garry Kasparov used to play these clock simuls against teams of 4 or 6 or 8 players. He went sort of around the world. He would play national teams, like Olympiad teams, stuff like that. It was pretty amazing. And so he played in, if I remember correctly, September of 1987. Excuse me, the top 6 junior chess players in the United States, right? Top 6 players under 20. I was board 1. I won the U.S. Junior Championship that year, and he had 3 whites, 3 blacks, and we played a game. It was a really sharp, interesting game. Gary, not surprisingly, prepared extremely well. He found like a chink in my opening repertoire where I played something that wasn't correct, um, got an advantage. I then mixed it up, played a very sharp, like sort of attack on the king side. He had one very clear chance to sort of beat it back and have a clear advantage. But he's played 5 other games at the same time. Lucky for me. And so he went into a very long line, which he didn't calculate correctly all the way to the end, maybe because he had 5 other games going on. And I calculated it to the end, and so at the end of when all the dust settled, I just had a winning position, and I was able to convert that pretty easily.
That's so cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
That's an experience that I'm sure you have very fondly in your memory.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely. I
for
was a
sharing.
freshman in college. As a matter of fact, at Yale, I just heard that Yale lost. The Yale chess team lost a match, so that's too bad. My old alma mater. But I was a freshman at Yale at the time, and I was super excited. And I took the train back home the next day, and like with my friends who congratulated me, and it was really cool. And I still remember it, of course. It was a really nice experience.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you were tuning in for the Yale match. Of course, I just said that they lost, unfortunately, but they have Grandmaster Nico Checa on the team, and they have Alice Lee's older brother, Lyndon Lee. So they definitely have a lot of talent. Do you think that when you were in school that the team was maybe stronger, or do you think the team is stronger nowadays?
Well, the short answer is I don't know because I'm not close enough to be able to say, but it seems like everybody's stronger these days. So my default would probably be they're at least as good, if not better, than when I was there. And I think a lot of collegiate teams have gotten really good. I mean, I remember playing the Pan Am championships way back in the day, and maybe there'd be 1 or 2 grandmasters, but usually not. Maybe there'd be a couple IMs. Now it seems like the whole level has just gone up, and it's fun to see. It's great to see. It's great to see that some colleges are actually giving scholarships and really trying to attract chess players. And so it's chess is just booming, as you know. So it's great to see.
So on that note, one last question. I also read that if not going to Yale is impressive enough, apparently you've also were a student at Harvard,
Mhm.
and the Harvard versus Yale match is actually named after you, the
Yeah,
Wolf Cup. If I'm getting that right.
yeah.
So my question is, you mentioned the players are just better these days. Obviously, prepping back in the day when you're helping Anand and preparing for yourself for tournaments, it's a lot different nowadays with all these computers and the new technology and the new prep that we have. So what kind of advice do you give maybe to some of the Yale players or any players that are tuning in? What kind of advice could you give them for preparing in chess tournaments?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if anybody needs my advice. I think I'm a 55-year-old guy who is blown away by what the computers can do these days. Instead of offering advice, I'll just offer you some observations because I did play in the U.S. Seniors Championship early this year, and I did really prepare. I worked hard for a month and a half, 2 months to try to get my openings in some sort of shape to play. It was really striking for me to see how it's literally the case that with the engine, you can, in an afternoon, know more, analyze more deeply an opening position than grandmasters, the top grandmasters in the world 30 years ago would get after months. And I mean that literally. I mean, like, you can literally just understand a position so much better than it would take months and months for the best grandmasters in the world. And of course, everybody's doing that, right? Which means that there's just so much more you need to know, and you need to be able to set problems for people and remember your preparation and so forth. I think we're in a golden age of opening analysis. And what I mean by that is there's still a lot of undiscovered material to work through with the engines. I think in some amount of time, who knows how long, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, in some amount of time, I think all of that's going to be kind of worked out and cataloged. And so opening preparation is going to be much more about accessing this giant catalog of information, figuring out where you want to be, as opposed to trying to discover things for yourself. But right now, there's still a lot to discover. I even came up with a couple novelties on my own that, like, in current theory, and if I could do it, grandmasters all over the world are doing it all the time with the engines. Pretty exciting time.
That was awesome. And I feel like I could listen to you talk about it so much more. And the good news is, apparently you were on the Perpetual Chess podcast earlier. Maybe you could be on it again, as there's been a lot of updates since the last time you were there. But that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you so much for your time and for the wisdom that you've shared with us. So very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Great to be on. Take care.
Thank you. And don't go away just yet, chat, because we will have another guest right before the SLU versus Columbia matchup.
If we get some strangers waiting for their trains to play chess with us. All right, now I'm gonna see if I can get anybody. Hey.
I'll be white.
White.
Yeah, because I need all the advantage I can get.
Sounds like he knows what he's doing a little bit. Don't worry, I'm not that good.
Yeah? You're just out here playing chess, not that good?
Got the chess.com app. You ever play on your phone?
Oh, yeah.
You said you barely played.
I'm a teacher.
What do you teach?
Chess. I'm just kidding. Self-defense.
How do you stay sane?
I used to do a lot of meditation, take medication.
What's like lesson 101 of self-defense?
Run.
What are you listening to right now? Train, Sean Paul, Ed Sheeran. What is the meaning of life?
It's funny because like what I'm doing, I feel like doesn't align with my philosophy on what the meaning of life is, but it's like obviously spend as much time with family as possible.
The best person you can be, get closer to God, not to be evil to each other.
There you go.
Good game, thanks for playing. Good game, thanks for playing.
Appreciate it.
I'll see you in a self-defense class. Enjoy Harry Styles.
Do you wish playing a chess game with a friend was as easy as sending them a text? Well, good news. Now it is. With Chess.com's new iMessage app, you can start and play a game directly in iMessage. Your friend doesn't even need a Chess.com account. It's just tap and play. Head over to go.chess.com/iMessage or use the command iMessage in chat to learn more.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Collegiate Chess League's quarterfinals. We've got one match left to go, SLU versus Columbia. But first, we have a very exciting guest from SIG. This is Dan Gittleman. Dan, welcome. It's an honor to have you. I want to first off start by asking, what is it exactly that you do at SIG, and what is your personal relationship with chess?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, Joe. So I'm a macro research analyst at SIG. Specifically, I focus on commodities research and trading, and a lot of what I do is model out events that may have some kind of supply-demand fundamental impact. A lot of the events we analyze have to do with, for example, geopolitics. So it's kind of inherently a strategic exercise to evaluate those conditional probabilities, see what might happen step by step, and kind of incorporate that into our trading. In terms of my personal relationship with chess, I grew up playing chess with my grandparents. Both my grandfathers would play with me specifically a lot. It was never really that good, but at SIG, tons of people are really, really into chess, games like that. And yeah, so I would play with them, and I got a lot more into playing as I continued my career with SIG. Participated in different like leagues with people, both at SIG and then across different companies. There's a North American Corporate Chess League that me and my friends play in every Thursday during those seasons, and that's just a ton of fun to do. So yeah, definitely work hand in hand with one another.
That's so cool that you started off playing against your grandparents, and now you actually are playing in a corporate chess league with your coworkers. And we've actually talked a lot with your coworkers so far this season. Of course, like Andrew Tang, I know is on the team, which is really cool. Um, can you tell us what it's like to be at a company like SIG that's so supportive with like gaming and particularly really supporting the Collegiate Chess League and the coworkers actually playing in the corporate chess league?
Yeah, sure. So gaming is just a huge part of SFG's culture. You can see on the website that poker is very involved in the way we learn about trading and research, and the idea being that the combination of probabilistic thinking for poker and the strategic thinking of chess kind of incorporates a lot of trading and how to be a really good trader. So you could really both on the like minute level of like, oh, how do you analyze this specific position or understanding through a strategic like a mindset, and then also just on the more like casual like, oh, like let's just talk about like whatever chess games we had this last weekend, or like at the corporate chess league, or like let's analyze what happened at, for example, like Ding Nepo or like other kinds of tournaments. That's just like a conversation that we have all the time on the trading floor. So really, like chess and games like that are a huge part of this culture, and wouldn't really have it any other way. Which is it's really exciting that way.
That's so awesome that you're able to enjoy your passions at work and kind of combine the two, right? So, like, you sounds like you love your job and what you do, and it sounds like you're really into the whole chess scene, and you share that passion with a lot of coworkers, which is really exciting. And so, I was hoping you could maybe give some advice to some of the college kids, particularly that are watching, that maybe want to get a cool job that you have at a cool company at like SIG. So, what advice do you have for the college kids out there?
Yeah, SIG loves kids and people who are like really interested in gaming and commit to it and are obviously very competitive. So even if you're not really someone who's that interested at present in finance, beside like kind of like a baseline understanding, we're just looking really for smart people, and you can find a lot of smart people who are really into chess and poker and games like that. So if you show us that you're passionate in these kinds of things, that you're competitive, that you're willing to really put your head down and study, I think that's something that's really valued at a company like SIG, and is something that would fit in perfectly with our culture.
That's so awesome, and I hope a lot of students out there can take some notes and take a page out of your book. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your time and your wisdom, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for having me.
All right, and with that, we are back to the quarterfinals match that we've all been waiting for. Columbia taking on SLU, as you see at the bottom half of that bracket. Nemo, how do you think it's going to go?
I think it's going to be extremely exciting. I feel like, we have seen a lot of very fun games, but this one in particular is on my like have to watch list because first of all, it's SLU, and also it's against Colombia. And You know who's on Columbia?
Tell me.
Well, we have Brandon Jacobson coming in for Columbia. Actually, but he's the top grandmaster on Columbia, and he's extremely strong. So, and also really fun to watch. He plays a lot of speed chess on chess.com as well, and I've definitely been watching him for a while now. And he is going to hopefully crush it today. But obviously, SLU is also a really tough matchup. I don't really know how the matchup itself is going to go. If you have any thoughts,
I think I know.
How do you think it's going to go?
I think SLU is going to destroy Columbia. Like, worse than the match we just saw.
You think they're gonna destroy?
For sure. I mean, first and foremost, the SLU team is just an immediate upgrade over UTRGV.
This is true.
The UTRGV had 4 IMs. SLU has 4 GMs.
4 grandmasters on a
Yeah.
collegiate team is actually insane.
So there's that first and foremost. And secondly, the Columbia team I don't think is actually as good as the Yale team.
You know what? I hear you there. I definitely do. So I'm going to go with the prediction already because we actually have kickoff for the games. I think it's going to be 11-5.
Oh, I think it's gonna be worse than that.
Oh, you think it's
For
gonna be
sure.
worse?
Oh, for sure.
Oof.
I'm gonna guess like 13.5 to 2.5.
Oh my god. Wait, I feel so bad about my prediction now. I think you're going to be much closer than I am.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but I'm really hoping this is kind of like maybe my last chance to get one right. I don't know. But what I do know is that Brandon Jacobson didn't play last week. So Columbia is really happy to have him back. And we saw this Dallas team crush Columbia, I think 14-2.
Right.
I think the SLU team is going to maybe do better than that. But the thing is, Columbia does have Brandon Jacobson back. And speaking of him playing speed chess, like you mentioned online, I saw him actually maybe practicing a little bit last night. Guess who he was playing against? Maybe some of the viewers know.
Was it Danya?
That's a great guess because you're right. He
Okay.
was playing Danya.
Well, I heard speed chess, and obviously the first person that came into mind, late night chess, Danya. It's always Danya.
Yeah.
So we are going to actually take a quick look at Bok's game, coming off of this bird's eye. So I thought that Benjamin was playing the European Team Championship.
Yeah, he and I think some of his teammates actually might be as well, but I think they wrapped up, and obviously Collegiate Chess League is a high priority for them. And I think that SLU is maybe feeling a little ashamed that they actually even have to be playing right now, as they weren't able to clinch a top 2 spot against Mizzou. Plus, Bok was missing. So Bok is back, and I think the SLU team has as much motivation as they possibly could need to get back in the semifinals for a chance of redemption against their state rivals, Missouri.
Absolutely. I think Benjamin is probably very warmed up if him and his teammates have been playing European teams earlier during the day. I believe that is a classical tournament, so they are now jumping into 5+2, which is significantly faster, but hopefully their tactics, hopefully their, positional play is still very much on point. And watching Benjamin play is always an absolute pleasure. I mean, he's a very strong grandmaster, and so are his teammates, obviously, with Nicolas Theodoru also being 3,085. That's 3,085 on chess.com. That's very high. But as you can tell here, Black is already gaining a slight advantage, I would say. It's looking much better for Benjamin in this current position.
Yeah, I mean, this SLU team, I think that they're definitely prepared to win. I think the question at hand is by how much. So you and I both have our predictions in. I'm curious to see if anyone in chat will agree or disagree with us. Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? Is Columbia going to upset all of us? I know Columbia definitely surprised me in the regular season. I actually wrote this team off. I didn't give them a chance because I thought Chicago would be playing here today. But in fact, Columbia beat them in the regular season and took this playoff spot by head-to-head tiebreak. So this Columbia team can definitely surprise a few people.
Definitely. And that's why I actually had a very, safe Well, I don't know if safe is the right word, but I gave them 5 points. Maybe I shouldn't have given them 5 points. Apparently, Joe has much less convinced of their skills than I am. But hey, they have Brandon Jacobson, so I thought Brandon can at least get a few points, and maybe they can clinch a few wins here and there against a slightly more tired SLU team, perhaps. Once again, I don't actually know the schedule at the European Team Championship, but it is going to be a really exciting match. We have 4 Grandmasters. 4 Grandmasters. 5, actually, with Brandon. 4 on one team.
Yeah, 4 all on the SLU team. And this is a SLU team that is expecting to win. They are playing, of course, to beat Columbia right now, but they have eyes on the prize of a Division One championship, the Collegiate Chess League championship. They are the defending champions from last season, and they expect to win again this season. But obviously, they have a couple obstacles in the way. Not only Columbia right now, but semifinals next week. I don't even know if the SLU team is even thinking about semifinals right now. I think they just want to just blow Columbia off the board.
Yes, I think that they have every chance to do that. Here, the eval bar still says that it's equalish, but as I was saying earlier, I think this position is very hard for white to play. Black is just coming for the A pawn and the C pawn. One of white's little tricks here is actually A4 because the bishop on B7 is pinned. So when the queen takes on C3, you can simply win back your pawn on B5. But white does actually play A4. Very good spot by Kevin. Very good spot. This is the only move keeping both of his pawns still in the game.
Shout out to Kevin from Columbia. And this is going to be tough for both board 3 and 4 from Columbia. Neither of them, I believe, are titled. But Columbia's board 2 is titled their FIDE master and team captain, Aristo Liu. So I think that for either of us to get our predictions right, we're going to need to see some points from Columbia's lower boards. Of course, we have a lot of faith and confidence in Brandon as Columbia's top board. As a grandmaster, he could definitely get some points against some of these SLU players. But the question is how much, and how much can his team help him? I don't suspect much from the bottom 2 boards. Sorry to Kevin and his board 4 Z Wing. But maybe they can surprise me. I know the SLU team definitely didn't play their best last week, and they definitely are busy with the European Cup. So I'm really curious to see how SLU is able to play with all of this traveling and all the other things that are going on with this team.
Definitely. And I also do want to remind everyone that we're currently not even looking at board 1. We all know Benjamin Bok. He's a commentator. He's a very strong grandmaster, but Grandmaster Nicolas Theodorou is actually the board 1. So let's take a quick look at Bird's Eye and have a sneak peek at all of the other boards. Right now, Brandon's not looking too hot against Betsurin. Betsurin, another very strong grandmaster on St. Louis. And I think Nicholas actually has a pretty decent position. Would you like to take a
Yeah,
look at that?
Nicholas is doing great. If you look at his opponent's clock, he's already under 15 seconds compared to Theodore's 3:46.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's not a good case for time management.
It is definitely not a good case for time management. Black here is slightly better. Oh, wait, I take that back. Doesn't this promote?
Whoa! A7. Oh my god, there's 2 queens on the board,
There's
Evo.
3 queens, but 2 of those are whites. 2 of those queens are whites. I mean, what just happened? Like, I tuned into the game. We were giving compliments to Nicholas, just talking about, he's the best player on SLU. But what just happened here, Nicholas?
Oh my
I
god.
think G takes
It was the
F3.
en passant was forced, Nemo. That's what happened.
The en passant was forced, coming with double question marks, by the way. The en passant was very much forced. He knew it. And obviously
no.
Z Wang abused that and then promoted it into a queen. There was nothing that Black could
Wow.
do to stop the queen promotion. And Nicholas
Wow.
actually resigns in this position with 1 less queen. He is down a full queen. And not because he
Dude.
lost it, but because he let his opponent promote into a queen.
Nemo, this could be the biggest upset of Collegiate Chess League history.
I think this is the biggest
Yeah.
upset of Collegiate Chess League history. I mean, I don't know anything about Wang. It appears here that he is from China. He doesn't appear to have a title. I know like practically nothing about him, but he just took down Nicolas Theodoru.
Wow. And like most grandmasters can't even say that.
Yeah, most grandmasters definitely can't say they took down Nicolas Theodoru. Nicolas Theodoru is on the, I would say, upper, end of grandmasters. So that's pretty crazy. What a hero. I mean, my prediction is looking a little bit more alive. That's actually the first result we have for this match so far. Colombia 1, SLU 0, and this might be the only time that we actually see Colombia having a point lead. So I think at this very current time, we can say, hey, it's not looking too bad for Colombia.
That's incredible. That is unbelievable
Yeah.
almost. I can't believe we just watched that. Like, imagine that continues. Imagine the Colombia upset right now.
I mean, Robbie's position is also not too hot. He does have this open file along the D file, but Black is slowly coming back to life. He's got knight to D6. Well, knight goes back because he doesn't want to lose the knight, but he has opportunities to hold this position with 21 seconds on the clock. Aristo's definitely got an uphill battle for that, but it's not impossible.
No, I mean, Colombia definitely shows that they're here to play, right? And
Right.
with that win under their belt in the first round against the top board, they're not backing down. They don't care about the predictions. They're here to play, and I love it. I love that they're definitely shocking some people already. Game 1 out of 16. Obviously, it's still a uphill battle. Looks like Robbie's starting to turn the tide here a little bit. But so much chess left to be played, and I mean, that's a game that board for Z-Wing can tell his kids about.
For sure. I mean, he can also tell his kids about being at Columbia, but I'm sure, this one is probably the highlight of his career. Unfortunately, here White is actually going to clinch the win. Going back a few moves, he definitely did not have time to play Rook takes A6, and instead probably, I don't even know. This is just such a painful position. The knight's coming to D6, but Black's getting checkmated very, very soon. There's actually forced mate in 5 here. This feels like one of those puzzle rush games where you just give a whole bunch of checks and hopefully checkmate will come. But Robbie
Yeah.
has 1 minute on the clock and he's actually going to deliver checkmate in 5, which is
Yeah, instead he
very
doesn't
cool.
go queen f8, which
Mhm.
I think the queen on b4 covered, but finds this nice knight sacrifice and does that g4 check that you pointed out. So nice little checkmate there from Robbie.
For sure. I was just going to say that the queen was
Oh,
okay.
there's the knight blocking
Yeah, there
it.
was a knight blocking it, but that's
After his knight check, yeah.
but knight to F5 is beautiful regardless. You're just trying to expose the king. The idea is the same. It
Yeah,
always
I
works.
saw queen. I was like, queen f8 makes a lot of sense. And when they didn't play it, I was like, oh, because the queen covers, but it's because he moved his knight instead.
Yeah.
So we have one last game left, and it's actually Colombia's top board that we've been speaking so much about, Brandon Jacobson.
Brandon Jacobson, one more game. We did say we needed to stop the count when Z-Wang got that first win, but Brandon, I had hopes for, definitely can beat Batsurin. But in this current position, it's looking like he's having a hard time. He is up the piece, right? But White just
Yeah.
has captured every single pawn, every single one of them on the king side. There's not a single pawn left here for Black. I mean, what side would you rather play here, considering it's roughly equal, Joe?
Oh, I mean, I'm taking the pawns. Look at how exposed Brandon's king is. I think the extra piece is not going to be too happy, and his minor pieces don't look happy.
Mhm.
But this is a time scramble. There's like so much that could happen. Either side could mess up. There's perpetuals. There's this queen f7. No, queen f7 is not a check because the knight on d8. I'm also missing things, but we trade off here. The pawn's maybe going to storm.
I think it's a little hard to push the pawns just because there's still a dark square bishop on g7. But you can always push up the h5 pawn and then evaluate how you're going to push to h6. I think white here, though, just can keep up the pressure a little bit. He's also probably not hating a draw in this current position as they trade off queens and go into this endgame. It's going to be much harder for white to push up the pawns. So, interestingly enough, Brandon actually refuses the queen trade, probably because when you're low on time, queens are so incredibly tricky. So any chance he has to give those checks, you never know what might happen, right? Like you can fork something, you can capture a few pawns, and we actually see Brandon here pushing his own pawns, potentially eyeing the a2. But it's very hard for either side to make progress. I
I'm
think,
surprised he didn't take on a2. I'm not sure what white's counterplay would have been.
yeah, I think the queen just gets a little too far from the king side where all of the action currently is. So you don't quite have the time to do so. But in this case, obviously black is going to go for perpetual because white is threatening to take on d8 and
Well, there's also bishop e7.
bishop e7 is definitely another move. I don't know if black really wants to play that because there's always the risk of h6. There's always that slight chance that if you go a little bit away from your king side, white's pawns are just going to start rolling. And here
Oh my
actually,
god.
king f5 just lost the pawn on h5, and now it looks like it's actually more in Brandon's favor because that was one of white's most advanced pawns. Would you still
There
rather
he
play
goes,
white
bishop
here?
e7. Oh, I mean, I think it's gonna be a draw, but I don't know.
It's tough. It's
There's so many
really tough.
checks.
It's such a hard position to play. It really is. Okay,
Oh,
they're
there they
taking
go.
draw.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like someone's gonna. They both got down to 1 second on their clock, so they were living off the increment, and very, very quickly they were able to gain time back. And so, no flagging yet. They did end in a draw. That was a really good position for Batsurin with all those pawns, but major credit to Brandon for holding that, finding the draw there.
For sure. I think Brandon actually at the end could have potentially pushed for a win, but I'm sure with all the tension the whole game, the draw is not a terrible result. But we do have our scores after round one. SLU is in the lead with 2.5, where Colombia has 1.5. And Joe, which game stood out to you this round one?
I mean, obviously the upset on board one, Theodoro losing to Z Wang. I mean, that's gonna ruin my whole prediction. What did I say? 13.5 to 2.5. They're already at 1.5 after one round.
They're already at 1.5 after round one. I was not expecting this to happen. I don't think anybody was expecting that to happen, but it's very, I don't know if wholesome is the right word, but I think this is a good reminder to everybody that even if you are playing a grandmaster, you shouldn't go into the game with the mentality that, hey, oh, everything is over. I'm obviously going to lose because my opponent's like 1,000 points higher rated than me. That's not the correct mindset at all. Go in like you're Z Wang and you just play for the win, even if your opponent is that much higher rated, because you just never know. It could happen. It really could.
Yeah, I mean, major props to the Columbia Board for getting the job done, and I think a lot of SLU fans are hoping that Theodoro can pick up the pace here. I'm not sure exactly what the format is of the European Cup or where they. I mean, they're probably not even in the same country, right? Are they traveling over? They're in Europe right now.
I honestly have no idea if Nicolas is playing for the Greek team. I just assumed he is. But if they are both in the European team championships, then they would be in Europe. Correct.
Yeah, like that's crazy, to be a chess player and a student and on
Playing
the
2 tournaments on the
national
same day.
team. Yeah, like traveling, like I don't know how they do it. I can barely like wake up in the morning.
Thanks, Joe. We appreciate
Yeah,
honesty. We really do.
it's a struggle to get here every day,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just
Can't be
kidding.
like Nicolas Theodorou playing 2 tournaments on the same day. Not even the same time control, by the way. One's classical and one's blitz. So you have to change your mindset quite a lot going from classical into blitz. A lot of reasons why he might not have had the best game last game, but I do think, en passant's forced. We can't even really blame him for letting his opponent promote a queen. En passant's just forced.
Yeah, that was a forced queen right there
Yeah.
for Z-Wing. So major props to him to find that. I think Theodoro just had to prove that he knows what en passant is, and so that's it cost him the game, but at least he has a lot of chat's respect still.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. He might have lost the game, but he at least gained more respect for me and Joe, and hopefully Chad as well. I have a lot of respect for Ampasan there, where the opponent was 2 moves away from promoting.
Yeah. So it was unfortunate he missed that pawn push.
It's all good. He's now going
Otherwise, he could
to
stop them.
yeah, he's going to round 2 with a brand new mindset, I hope. Hopefully no more forced en passants this game. But it's a very solid position so far. Obviously, we're only 15 moves in. But his opponent's already down almost a minute relative to Nicolas, so I'm sure his opponent's feeling a little bit of the pressure right about now.
Yeah, and I wanna remind people, uh, Theodoro had, like, almost 4 minutes, and Z had, like, less than 15,
Yeah.
and Z Wang still pulled off the win, so the time advantage for Theodoro, I don't know if, it's actually worth that much, to be honest, after that last game.
It's true. I mean, that's 15 seconds, by the way, not 15 minutes. Just to be really clear, these are 5+2 games, so they are short. Being left with only 15 seconds on the clock while your opponent has 4 minutes and like 30 or something is definitely a different style of gaming. But it worked for Z Wang, so maybe it will work here for Kevin. But
And honestly, I think that a lot of times if you put yourself into a time scramble, your opponent can get this false sense of security and try to play maybe a little quicker themselves when maybe they shouldn't, and they should be playing more calmed and precise.
absolutely. I can confirm whenever I am up like that much time on my opponent, I just start playing faster because I'm like, oh, I can flack my opponent. This is easy. And then obviously it's not easy because everybody is a competent chess player here and they're good and they see tactics. And I'm like, ah, bummer, I missed that. So I definitely relate to it. I think that unfortunately, for Colombia, Nicholas is probably going to learn from his mistakes and going to keep pressing in his games and keep playing for the win. He's not going to let a loss stop him from performing well today.
Yeah, and again, SLU, all they need is to win. All they need is 8.5 points to move on to the semifinals. But I do want to mention they can't just like stumble into the semifinals, right? Like maybe they can get there, but they have Mizzou ahead of them, right? And we saw Mizzou just completely stomp them last week, and Mizzou is ready to do that again. They're in playoff form, they're in shape. This SLU team, they're coming off the biggest loss perhaps of their entire career. And that was just not the start that they need in response to that. So we're still yet to see this SLU team at full capacity, at full potential. I mean, they have the 4 GMs in the lineup, but they have to perform to that GM standard. And maybe they can turn it to a different gear in the rest of these rounds.
Yep, for sure. Well, either way, let's take a quick look at bird's eye view and see any other games that you might want to look at, Joe.
Well, I think it's worth taking a look at the Brandon Jacobson game. Obviously, he is Colombia's pride and joy on their board 1. He had a draw in the first round, and it's a tough matchup for him no matter what round it is. But obviously, like if Colombia is to win this match, Brandon's going to get some points besides draws. He's got to get some dubs, like his teammate on board 4, Z Wang.
Absolutely. I being board 1, we talked about this extensively in the very first match, is a lot of pressure, especially when you're playing on a team where not everybody is around the same level. Brandon is very obviously a lot higher rated than his compatriots here, but I still think that, he has a very good chance of performing well. He is facing off against a grandmaster every single game. This is like another day in the park for him. He just has to perform decently. I think he did really well against Batsurin. I think he had a worse position and then came back. So here he has the white pieces against Robbie. There's some very clear imbalances in this position. First of all, Robbie is up the exchange. So That's something that Brandon has to keep in mind. But the e6 pawn is slightly weak.
Was there an exchange sacrifice or was there a tactic? Do you mind taking us back to see what happened?
Yeah, let's take a quick look back all the way to the start. We're seeing a lot of queen's pawn openings. We're seeing a lot of queen's gambit declines today. That's usually a pretty good sign. It means that players have got their prep ready. They're playing these slightly more close positions relative to e4 positions. This is
Ooh, so yeah.
definitely a very conscious decision to exchange sacrifice. Do you like exchange sacrifices?
I mean, they're definitely very popular after Levy came up with the sack the rook,
Are they now?
right? I think so. I think it's a trendy thing to do sometimes, but I also think like even before that, I think that sacrificing the rook just shows kind of a different tier or quality of chess skill and knowledge, right? Because a lot of beginner players are taught, rook is worth 5 points, minor piece is worth 3. So to give up a rook for a piece, like without even getting a pawn back for it, just purely a structural or strategical difference here. I think that there's a reason why Brandon is a grandmaster, and people that don't sack their exchanges oftentimes miss these kinds of opportunities to use the minor pieces in a superior structure. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out and whether or not Brandon can convert it, or if the sacrifice was in vain and Robbie's going to hold it.
Yeah, for sure. Joe, you had a very good analysis there of why you should sack, or why you should at least think about sacking an exchange. And I think this is something that all of you guys should also keep in mind occasionally, is that, hey, material means that you might be down a little bit, but you get so much compensation, you get so much activity. It's really cool to see. And I love the way Brendan plays, as we discussed earlier as well. But here, I'm a little bit worried about White's compensation. I think the pair of bishops is great. I think pair of bishops are beautiful. And I also think that queen h5 is a terrible move because of queen h7.
Dude, I
What is
love how
happening?
Brandon just teased this out of Robbie. Basically, was that offering a perpetual if the knight went back to f6? Like that was the most obvious response. But I think Robbie just didn't want to repeat, and so he plays rook to f6, which blocks his own knight, allowing queen h7. What is Robbie doing?
What is Robbie doing? Robbie is pushing for the win a little too hard. There are times when you can just accept that repeating the move might be your best choice and you can take the draw, but Robbie obviously is trying to play for the win, which is also not exactly incorrect considering he is up the exchange. But now knight g5 is actually the blow, rather than queen h7, because first of all, you might be tempted to play queen to h8 here because you can win the rook on h8. But after king f7 and white taking the rook, there's queen takes f3, and all of a sudden black is just checkmating white. So you cannot go for the free rook. It was not a free rook. It was
Wow,
very much a
knight
beta rook.
g5 though.
Yeah.
What a move, taking advantage of the pin on the
Yep.
queen. That h6 pawn can't take it.
Exactly. And now you're just threatening potentially knight takes e6. You're threatening yeah, I don't even know. You're just it's just uncomfortable to play for black.
What's the knight e6 line?
So knight e6 baits out the rook to e6, and after the rook's been baited out, then you can go for the rook on h8. Because there's no longer the same queen f3, queen takes f2 idea.
Exactly. That's a really nice find. Yeah, this is awesome moves here from Brandon, and he's looking like a genius right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Brandon is looking like a genius right now, and I also wanted to point out that knight to e6 doesn't work anymore because there is knight to g8 blocking your free rook. Levy
Yeah,
would
so instead he goes to e4, and that's
Mhm.
a fork. He's gonna get his exchange back and then some.
And then some. Queen to f3. Similar idea to before, attacking the bishop, potentially attacking f2. So now the real question is, why can white not play knight takes f6, taking back exchange, right? And he can, but I think Brandon might actually go, I was going to say, maybe Brandon wanted something more. There were some really interesting ideas there with bishop c2 and just keeping up pressure, making sure you don't lose your bishop. But White's also okay with just having weakened Black's king. Now he has this very clear e6 pawn to play for. I think this is a very practical decision in a blitz game against another grandmaster. You don't need to get really crazy and start risking a lot. Instead, this is safe. This is solid. This is a position that is harder to mess up. And I like that idea a lot.
Oh man, the computer line I wanted to look at was bishop c3 threatening d5. Looked very sharp.
Yeah, for sure. I think bishop to c3 here is very interesting, especially considering your queen is still on h7. A little out of the play on h7, obviously, but hey, there's no way for black to trap it, so it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. But queen e4, Brandon is just
I
being
know.
practical. But 2 seconds
He's
on the
got-
clock?
Oh my god. We got to get back to the live position.
Yeah, we do. We do. All right, here we go. Position's equal again because the material is equal and there's weak kings on both sides of the board. But oh, this knight is parked on d5. I'm actually not entirely sure White can progress here. And that's what I'm a little bit more worried about at the current moment for Brandon, because if he can't progress, what is he going to move? Like, how is he going to move around?
Oh man, this is one of those in games where you played a spectacular sequence of moves, and now we're seeing. Oh, I feel like Robbie might be pushing for win. Okay, we see a queen trade. The H pawn is hanging. It's defended. The rook is hit. Rook's gonna go back. Oh, there's a check first. I think what makes this so exciting. Oh, Brandon gets the pawn, and oh, the D pawn was hanging. Maybe.
Oh.
Now it's defended. I'm liking Brand. Oh, I don't think he can save the D pawn anymore.
Okay, I think trading off rooks, Brandon really doesn't want to take the draw. Trading off rooks is obviously the clearest sign for a draw because opposite color bishop endgames, as we know, are oftentimes a draw, especially in a position where there's equal pawns. But it looks like Brandon's actually trying to push this for a win, which I think is very unlikely to happen. So I'm not sure. Maybe he just didn't want to trade off the rooks. It just seems hard to push this position for a win.
Yeah, and it's a shame really because the moves were so spectacular and the ideas were so awesome that you hate to see something like that turn into a draw. And so mad respect, mad props to Brandon for pushing even though he's only got 1 second. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Okay, he's definitely making us very nervous. He's
Oh my god.
also, we do have results on 2 other boards. As a reminder, Nicolas has won his game against Kevin, and Benjamin has successfully won against Ziwang. So maybe Brandon's pushing this game for a win because he has seen that his teammates have lost. And Batsurin's actually currently pushing for advantage as well. So there's always the slight chance that Robbie, makes a mistake. But I think after this and not having, yeah, this is looking like a draw.
It's
Okay, it's a draw now.
Oh, imagine Robbie didn't take like on a pre-move or something.
Yes, that would have been terrible.
Oh,
but
man.
that's why there is 2 seconds increment here, so nobody should be making those pre-moves, right? I've definitely made the wrong pre-moves on 2 seconds increment. It's fine. We don't need to talk about that. Anyways, going to bird's eye view. Moving on, we have one more game remaining between Aristo and Batsurin. And I actually think that this is drawn? This is like the same type of rook bishop endgame as the previous game we just watched between Robbie and Brett.
Rook G1 is mate. Oh, that's a free rook.
And he sacrifices the rook. Or he just loses the rook. He just loses the rook. It's fine.
Oh,
Oh my
no.
god, no, we just came in at the wrong time. Oh, I feel
the
very
right time.
for the right time.
Oh, but that's, I mean, hey, it's hard to hold these draws against GMs and time scrambles. He was technically down a pawn, even if it's opposite color bishops. His king got put in the corner, and in the corner it will stay. So checkmate for Batsurin, getting the job done there. It's very hard for Aristo to hold that.
Very tough, very tough. But that does bring us to SLU having 6 points and Columbia having 2, which actually puts it pretty close for your prediction. But Nicolas here has got a win now, and Benjamin still on his perfect 2-2. Whoa, that was an intense match.
Yeah, we're going to need a breather between the next round. So I think Colombia is also going to try to recoup here. 6-2, isn't that the same score we saw in the first round?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a good point. I mean, I think the players today have been absolutely spectacular. Not necessarily in terms of like giving us perfect engine lines at 100% accuracy, but they have been giving us interesting games. Brandon is always really fun to watch. Both his first game and his second game were absolutely exciting, and obviously, Benjamin is on a roll as always. And we've seen some upsets, so I'm all here for it. It's looking like it's really fun. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I can agree more. The score might be a little lopsided, but the players are delivering right now. Brandon Jacobson with an exciting rook sacrifice that ended up in a draw, but his board 4 teammate Z Wang giving us one of the most exciting upsets we've ever seen with a huge win over SLU's top board, Theodorio.
Yeah, for sure. We are going to take a quick break and let the players take a quick break before coming back to rounds 3 and 4. So we will see you all very soon. Don't go anywhere.
La partita a scacchi di Marostica è una grande rappresentazione collettiva.
Nel 2020 l'interruzione della partita è stato come spegnere improvvisamente la città.
Purtroppo sono stato qui in zona il paziente zero del Covid. Questa prima edizione dopo la pandemia sarà senz'altro un'emozione.
Questo è l'anno più importante per la città, per noi, per tutti. Do un'occhiata al meteo. Mamma. La partita di quest'anno è una questione di vita o di morte.
Your subscription makes shows like this possible, which is why our Twitch subscribers will never see ads on chess.com. Connect your chess.com account and Twitch account at go.chess.com/connectaccounts, and bang, boom, voila, you're done. 100% ad-free bliss forevermore. Whether you're following our events on site or on stream, type the command connect in the chat, and thank you for helping bring these shows to life.
Welcome back to the Collegiate Chess League presented to you by SIG. I'm your host, Nemo, and I'm joined here by Joe to bring you the last 2 rounds of today. How exciting have they been, Joe?
They've been definitely delivering on the excitement level. We saw an awesome couple of games from Brandon Jacobson, but obviously the highlight so far has been Colombia's board 4, Z Wang, taking down SLU's top board in round 1, Grandmaster Nicolas Theodoru, in a spectacular finish. We saw a forced en passant leading to promotion. Uh, do you agree with that, Nemo, or is there something else that you saw?
I definitely agree with that. I think what you have stated there are definitely the most interesting 2 games from today. But once again, there are still rounds 3 and 4, so anything can still happen in these. Unfortunately, the games have been a little bit one-sided. Not necessarily unfortunate for us, more unfortunate for the team, because one of these schools is getting eliminated today, and we might know already which one that is. I mean, it's hard for Colombia to make a full comeback being at 6-2, but it's always possible. Always possible.
Yeah, and just a reminder, you guys, this is the first round of the season's playoffs. And frankly, I think Colombia is just happy to be here. Maybe the score isn't in their favor. Maybe the result isn't going to be what they would hope for, but they made it here over Chicago, which I think is an accomplishment of its own. So at least they're playing today instead of watching, right?
It's true. I mean, I think it's always more fun to play than to just watch. Definitely very exciting tournament for a lot of the players here. They are in their regular school year, by the way. It's not like they get any time off of school for playing this tournament. So they've been playing some really good chess, and some of them are also playing additional tournaments on top of this one, on top of being in school. So there's a lot going on. But here we are seeing the Scholars Mate come in for Nicolas Theodoru, just prepping that juicy queen takes f2, but white has learned the rules of chess and decides to go for short castle. Unfortunately, no Scholars Mate.
Yeah, I think it's always good to not get mated that quickly.
Right.
We have seen some. I actually, when I was watching the Dallas game with Bok last week, we saw an international master hang mate in 1 against Colombia. Was that also Zima? Wait, somebody's got to look. Remind me who did that? It was against Andrew McAvey. It was one of the Columbia players.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I do know Andre. I mean, unfortunately I was not here last week, but I'm sure the games were also really exciting. Here, Nicholas has a very clear plan. Actually, Scholars Mate might not have worked, but that's not going to stop him from potentially playing knight to g4 and going for queen takes h2 or knight takes f2. So some
Yeah, back to
very
the basics here.
yeah, really though. Really, it's back to the basics here. He's gone for Scholars Mate. Opponent saw it, so now he's going for the next. I don't actually know if this trick is that well known, but knight to g4 is essentially a fork threatening checkmate on h2 and the pawn on f2. And I think this is actually a really common tactic that a lot of people should remember if they haven't seen it yet. Queen to f3, really good way of stopping it, because now if you play knight to g4, there is simply bishop to f4 defending this, and you've already defended the f2 pawn. So a very nice prophylactic move coming in from white over here, but he has spent a minute. He spent a minute on fighting queen f3.
Yeah, Aristo with the white pieces, he's already significantly less time on the clock. So gonna be interesting to see if Theodore still tries to go for this knight g4 idea. Do you feel like if you've made it to FIDE Master title and your opponent is trying to go for Scholar's Mate and stuff like that, are you like, really? Come on, man. Like, I know I'm not a GM, but show some respect.
Actually, no, because you would be so surprised. There's definitely a level at which you stop worrying about 300 rated tactics. But then when the 300 rated tactics happen like in an actual game, sometimes you just forget about it because you're like, "Oh, the last time I saw a Scholar's Mate was when I was 5. Like, who does this?" But then you got to remember, like, you can still go for the Scholar's Mate. You're still legally allowed to go for the Scholar's Mate when you are a Grandmaster. And oftentimes the follow-up to a Scholar's Mate is knight to f6, knight to g4, or perhaps even pushing up your G pawn, or perhaps, going for these fishing pole trap. Like everything builds, right? And as we can see here, Nicholas actually just decides to play knight to G4 anyways, and threatening once again this maiden one. So you're never too high rated to play for Scholar's Mate.
Man, I thought I could get away with it once I passed 1,000 rating, but I guess it's gonna stick with me for life.
Yes, it is. It is going to stick for you. Stick with you for life. This is very funny. I love it.
Ugh. All right. Well, I guess I gotta always be on my toes for those scholar mates.
Yeah, you and everybody else. It would be, imagine how embarrassing it would be if you lost to the Scholar's Mate, right? Like it's almost worth going for it just for that. Like if you checkmate your opponent with the Scholar's Mate in a high level game of chess, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because we literally saw a maiden one blunder from Andrew Makove last week. It was actually really great. It was funny because I mentioned like, "Hey, don't blunder maiden one," and Bok didn't even see it. So the two titled players missed it, and me and the non-titled players saw it, and we ended up seeing it happen on the board. And we all four of us missed that the queen was actually hanging before that. So it was wild.
I have to go back and watch this. That sounds like a good time. Man, you're making me miss. I mean, you're making me regret not being here last week. Sounds like the games were really interesting, but unfortunately, Nicholas did spend a lot of time going for the Scholar's Mate and as well as going for the mate on h2, which means that White has actually fully developed his bishops, and the bishops are now looking very, very strong with one on d3, one on f4. The pair of bishops game is back in business, and Nicholas also has to deal with the double pawns. So I'm not like
Yeah.
too convinced of Nicholas's Scholar's Mate idea. It does tend to work a little bit better when you're playing versus the likes of XQC rather than a FIDE master. But hey, he's the Grandmaster here. Who am I to judge a random Scholar's Mate?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Theodoro thinks he's playing against XQC or if he realizes his opponent is indeed a FIDE master. But yeah, you mentioned the bishop pair, and Theodoro gets that back. And so we have same color bishops. I know we talk a lot about opposite color bishops. Um, which structure do you think favors, which player has the more favorable structure?
I actually think White has the more favorable structure just because he's going to get for sure an outside pass pawn. But at the same time, I mean, this game is just very, very equal. Unless Black makes some significant errors, there's really not that much advantage here to be found for White. But I would prefer to play this if I had to pick a side to play for a win starting right now, right here on move 19, I would pick White.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe bishop g4 is an idea. That bishop on d3 was hit by the rook, so we
Mhm.
see that bishop gets tucked back, and maybe we take this time to maybe look at some of the other games.
Absolutely. I think this game is going to be a little slow. They are going to this, it's still a middle game, but it's definitely a very, very much on the edge of entering endgame. But we have some pretty crazy eval bars coming in over here. I mean, I think since Z Wang has like literally a fraction of Black color left in his eval bar, we have to tune into this one before it goes fully in White's favor, you know? Um,
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty good point of time to see why is Robbie absolutely crushing in this position? And I think the answer is actually not that clear. Robbie is up a pawn, and
Ooh.
he's also threatening some types of checkmate, but Black has the pair of bishops, and if you ever play bishop takes g6, there is always pawn takes g6, and then all of a sudden your f6 pawn is going to hang.
Yeah, this is not so clear, but I think Wang's gonna stick to his tried and true method of getting less than 15 seconds and then completely destroying a grandmaster. you think we're gonna see that again?
I think Robbie might have seen game 1 between Nicolas and Z and been like, "Yeah, let's not play like Nicolas today."
Ooh.
And instead is going to play a little bit more solid. Of course, that being said, there is almost no advantage now here for white. Because if you ever move your queen, it's actually not that clear that you have anything for it, since the rook can come down to the second. So white is going to have to be a little bit creative here with gaining back his advantage. Of course, he is still slightly better. The black king is very, very weak, but it's just not that clear anymore.
Yeah, the eval didn't love this last move. I mean, if Z-Wing pulls off this upset, I mean, I we got to give him some sort of like brilliancy award.
Oof. Black probably has no idea why king h7 was even bad. It looked like such a natural move, just shuffling it back and forth. But unfortunately, now he's getting into a pin.
Yeah, it's a pin for sure. But the king can always leave that diagonal, and the rook is still at least defended by the pawn. But I'm curious to see how Robbie's going to convert this one out.
Yeah, the problem here is that after rook takes, queen takes, pawn takes, this is just a winning endgame for white because he's going to get this pawn, or he's going to get one of these pawns, and everything just kind of starts falling because a knight is so tricky. And now there's another fork, you know. This feels like one of those games where you're just like, frick. Like, if this just wasn't a check, if this just wasn't a fork, it would have been almost fine. But
Ooh. Yeah, he's not even grabbing the pawn. He's just
yeah.
saying, give me that. He can play g4 at any time. That g pawn's immune.
Yeah,
This is a solid win.
Very solid win by Robbie. And the G pawn's always immune, guys, because this pawn will promote. Kings are always one move slower than the pawn, right? So can't do that.
Yeah. But we can't give out on the legend of that is Z-Wing. Oh, he's gonna. All right.
You
His
tried.
legendary
You tried.
status.
We
I know.
tried
I'm like,
hyping
maybe
him
some
up.
stalemate. No.
All right, well, we'll take another good look at Bird's Eye. We do have only one decisive result at the current moment. So, you know, there's still chances for Colombia, but I think your prediction is looking much more likely than mine. Much more likely.
Well, I mean, all Colombia has to do is get a point, and it breaks my, I guess, 2.5. So Colombia is only allowed a draw from here on out. Maybe we look at their top board, Brandon Jacobson, and see if he can convert that and ruin my prediction.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at Brandon Jacobson. Benjamin Bok here, only with 4 seconds left on his clock, as Brandon has 30. So, you know, it's not like we have anything to gloat about on Brandon Jacobson's behalf, but they're both very familiar with playing speed chess. They're both regular users of the chess.com, you know, blitz pool and bullet pools and all that stuff, and they're not that far rated. There's not that much difference in their ratings, sorry. So I'm like pretty convinced that this is going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, these are definitely the two stars of the matchup, right? Bach, everyone knows, and has his own personal hype man from time to time, and is a very well-known streamer. And Bach, or Brandon, of course, very well-known at Columbia. So this match, still anyone's game. It looks like Brandon's gonna harass this rook, maybe win an exchange here. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
this definitely looks like it's an exchange angle. Even if you went rook to e8, your rook's still so uncomfortable. So there's nothing wrong with giving up in exchange for a little bit of activity. Black's position was looking very, very passive there. And here, it looks like white's going to be the one pushing for a win. However, it's hard to push for a win here. White is the
For
one
sure.
pushing, but I don't actually
Oh,
know.
Black is the one. Oh, there we see the en passant and a pin.
And a pin, and that is how white's going to get this B pawn back. It is not just a free pawn. This is actually, I actually don't think en passant was correct there. We all know, obviously,
It was
that en
forced.
passant's forced, but but en passant's for. Okay, you know what? I can't even say anything about that. I think both of the en passants we have seen today have been terrible. Like, this has just let white have one less pawn to worry about, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, White would have had a pass pawn.
It's true.
But I love that the Columbia team is utilizing their knowledge of
Mhm.
the en passant to create their own advantages here.
I'm gonna try this next time I play a very strong grandmaster. Be like, and the moment he doesn't take en passant, I'm gonna call the arbiter over and be like, "Hey, by the way, en passant is forced, right? right?"
Yeah, I mean, you could try that, certainly. It's working out for Colombia right now.
It really is. It does look like Brandon once again does not take the repetition and is going for the win, which is correct because he's the one with the exchange and he's the only person that can play for a win in this position. However, it's very, very tough to get away from having to defend your H pawn, and being able to really find anything to attack in black's position is also tough. One of the ideas could be to go for the f7 pawn, but there's bishop g6, so you can't even
Ooh,
really
there's
do
also
that.
there's bishop g2, no?
There is bishop g2, and now this pawn is going to hang. However, the bishop
Wow.
is kind of awkward on h3, so this would be a good time to go for the f7 pawn, because now the bishop
Mm,
is not going to be able to make it back on time to go to
yeah.
g6 to defend this. So I think it's definitely,
Ooh, I like knight to e2's coming.
knight to e2 is coming, and
And
then king
is
of
the g pawn falling?
it is, but there's also no chance of playing rook g6 to take it when the knight's on f4. So once again,
So
white's tough.
I think this is the draw that I need, and then we need a sweep from SLU in round 4.
We do. That was the last game
Oh my
of
god,
this
did
round.
Batsurin draw Kevin?
Batsurin indeed drew Kevin while we were not watching. We had not tuned into that game at all this round, but apparently Kevin has gotten another draw. I mean, these two untitled players, not title players. I don't even know what the term for untitled, I guess. Untitled players.
Normies.
These two normies, these two absolute plebs have been playing very,
Oh,
very
hey,
well.
now.
Okay, that's too far. Okay, we can't use plebs. I'm gonna mark that down. I'm gonna take a pen right now and write
That's
it.
the line.
That's the line. That's the line we draw. No, but they have been playing absolutely spectacular. I mean, once again, I always like to say that titles. Once you're on the chessboard, nothing matters. Your title doesn't matter. Your rating doesn't matter. What age you started playing chess doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if your mother's a grandmaster. Doesn't matter if your dad's a like, none of that matters once you're on the chessboard. At the chessboard, you're starting out at 0. Like, you just have to play your game. And I think Kevin and Z Wang have been playing really well today. Like, even if they haven't had the most points, they've been playing well. So we do see here Nicolas at 2 out of 3. And they're actually jumping into round 4 straight away.
Yeah. And with that score in the third round, SLU does clinch the win. They do move on to the semifinals, guaranteeing at least 4th place and $500, but a chance to win more as they face against their Missouri State rivals, Mizzou, for a chance of redemption and revenge from last week.
For sure. I got distracted by the fact that they are drawing the game 1. That's so typical. That's like the most classic. Like, oh, we know we lost. It's fine. I'm just gonna offer a draw. They're both grandmasters. They don't need to battle it out. The most likely result in a simulation, if they repeated that, 50 times, would be that they draw anyways. So they're just deciding on the draw, which means we can focus on the other 3 games.
What was your prediction? Was it 10.5 to 5.5?
It is 10.5 to 5.5.
So you need Columbia to win 2 of these last 3.
No, wait, it was 11 to 5.
Was it?
I think it was 11 to 5.
We might need the replay.
We might need the replay, but
either way, you could get it still.
yeah. I think the commonly known term for the draw is just a grandmaster draw. And I personally don't see issue to that, but I know some people do. But anyways, let's take a look at Benjamin Bok versus Aristolio. He just was in chat. Shout out to Benjamin. He came to say hi and say GG. And now he's jumping back into his game.
I swear, if Bok gets your prediction right, like if his result makes that happen, he's gonna burn me 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, it's true. Bok has personally the ability to ruin your life. How does it feel, Joe?
Another, how many is like 10 gifted subs?
Yeah, it's 10.
I mean, dang.
Dang. That's
Come
like
on,
a
Bach.
week's worth of
Don't do me
food.
dirty twice. He
Yeah.
owes me, really. Come on.
Exactly, exactly. But we're seeing a very, very slow opening coming out of this, and we have seen a lot of D4 today. A lot. This one is a King's Indian. I'm not actually sure what this queen is doing on A6. He looks a little sad over there, but I guess in all the lines, white's just gonna take the C5 pawn, and then black's gonna get the C4 pawn, so it comes back out. But
Well, I mean, what if you just defended your C pawn? Is black gonna play like B6 or something?
I think if you defend your C pawn, yeah, B6, just moving your queen back is going to happen. So this is a slow position, a very, very, very slow position. I'm sure a lot of these
Yeah.
players are a little bit more tired now. It has been 3 very intense rounds of 5+2.
Yeah, I feel it. And unfortunately for Bach, his opponent is not a grandmaster, so they can't agree to the draw. They have to play this one out.
Exactly. That's the rule. If your opponent does not match your title, you're not allowed for the draw, because then people are going to say it's rigged. But if you're both grandmasters and roughly the same strength, then yes, you can offer the draw, and then everybody would be like, okay, cool. I know that if we played this out, it would be a draw anyways, but you can't do that if your opponent's a FIDE master. So Bach is here playing round 4 all the way to the end as he spends a lot of time actually on this move. After what is, I presume, has already been a really long day playing the European team championships.
Yeah, and as a reminder, we do plan on having a player interview after this match, so definitely don't go away just yet. Stay tuned and maybe put some questions in the chat for us if you want to see, maybe even tell us who it is that you want to see interviewed.
Definitely do that, chat. I always want to ask the grandmasters, like, between a between grandmaster to another grandmaster, when is it okay to offer that draw on move 2?
Mm,
Okay,
that's a good question.
I think it's time for bird's eye view as Benjamin somehow takes 2 minutes on deciding where he wants to go. No problem, Benjamin. We will leave you to decide where you want what you want to play in that position. But I don't think we have seen much of Batsurin today, so unless you have any objections, I would like to take a quick look at Batsurin.
Oh, let's check it out.
He is playing the infamous Z Wang.
Yeah, even though the Columbia season is over, their infamy will live on through Z Wing's performance here today.
For sure. And I also saw a comment in chat asking what's Jolie's title, and indeed, his title is being boss. He is the boss of the Collegiate Chess League. You could refer to him as boss. Boss Joe.
I'm not actually the boss.
Oh.
Nemo is the boss for sure.
Only for the hosting. Joe is way too humble because he is running 23 divisions of the Collegiate Chess League.
My official title, so I don't have a chess title, but I have a job title. I am the commissioner of the Collegiate Chess League. So that's me. That's what I do. I started the league back in 2020, and now we get to see the matches played on the main chess.com broadcast, which is very exciting for me. So really appreciate everyone that plays, everyone that's watching, and especially the people working to make this a reality. And so as the season gets closer to the end, I just want to stress how appreciative that I am that all this has really come together over the years to get to this point, because the first season was literally just me streaming it, to like no one, and to like see it to the point where it is today is really humbling, and I can't actually wait to see where it even goes from here. I think the sky is the limit.
For sure. And I also want to add on that Joe is absolutely fantastic and he has been a pleasure to work with. Huge thank you to chess.com and SIG for bringing the broadcast to you guys. And this is the very first year that we have been able to broadcast professionally with our amazing production team, Division 1. So we're really happy about all of this. And I think it's really good to showcase, having, both of us been in college. He actually graduated. I didn't. That's a different story. As a college student, as a former college student, whatever, as a former college student, this means a lot, I think, to college students, right? Because like you're in school, you're working hard, and you're also working hard on your chess some of the times if you're still being competitive. And it's really nice to be able to bring some of this to the world. I think if there was open broadcast of my games in college, I probably would have played a little bit more and taken the games potentially a little bit more seriously. But yay, we are now here with our very first season of live Collegiate Chess League. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who's watched.
Yeah. And I also want to mention, you've been referencing the lower divisions a lot. I'm actually planning on covering some of the lower divisions tomorrow. So tomorrow we don't have Division 1 playoff rounds because it's a smaller division. It's only the top 8 teams, but the rest of the divisions are 16 teams. And so they're going to be playing both today and tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be their quarterfinals. And I'm actually excited. I kind of want to tune in and see if I can cover some like Division 23 matches because of the pure chaos that's about to unfold. And that's not going to be covered on this main channel. It's going to be on the Collegiate Chess League channel. So definitely give that channel a follow if you want to see some of the other divisions.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Joe. I do also want to mention that these games are a lot of fun to watch. People playing are obviously really strong. We're actually seeing here, Betsurin is a grandmaster, obviously, and he's unfortunately crushing Ziwang. Ziwang had a very good first game. He abused the fact that en passant is forced, but he has not been able to get on en passant this game and take the advantage. So he's actually going to be
Well, hold on. There is the timely G4 when the
There
moment's
is.
right.
There's always G4, but the problem with G4 is that you're almost getting checkmated even if en passant comes through. There is always the chance that Black forgets this can promote. Nope, he does not forget this pawn can
Ooh.
promote, and unfortunately, it is going to
Wait,
be
wait.
over.
He could have done the G4. No.
He could have done G4. That was the
For
move to
one
do.
last move.
He could have done one last en passant, but no, unfortunately, it does drop to Betsurin, which means that we should take a quick look at bird's eye view as we once again only have that one other decisive result with the grandmaster draw on board 1. So we're still seeing Benjamin play against Aristo, as well as Robbie face off against Kevin. And I actually wanted to revisit Benjamin's game because he's got a discovered attack in the making. I mean, he has delivered the discovered attack. So now what is Black's best move?
That is a good question. And is it Queen to B or D6 played? I was thinking maybe Queen B6, but maybe we want to cover the E7 square as well. So this queen kind of walking a tightrope here, defending the knight on B4, defending the pawn on E7. The computer's saying it's a mistake. I don't know. What do you think was the better move?
I think bishop d7 was the familiar idea we've actually seen before, where the queen is hanging and just, using that to develop your piece. But after queen to d6, I'm not really sure how I feel about rook c to d1, because now all of a sudden you have to answer to this too. So I'm like, there's a lot of tactics in this position that it's just very hard to play when you only have a few seconds on the clock.
Yeah, we see rook to D. Oh, there is your bishop D7 idea
Bishop
from
d7,
Aristo.
getting the queen. Sorry. Also, making sure you don't drop the rook on d8. Now the queen shall move, defending the knight. Oh, another exchange sacrifice. We have seen exchange sacrifices earlier.
And what's the idea here? I mean, is there an immediate gain of material? Or
There
is it position?
can be an immediate gain of material because the F7
Ooh,
pawn's
yeah,
there,
F7
but
is hanging.
yeah, I didn't see knight d5. Knight d5 is blocking it. Oh my god, Benjamin going down to 1 second.
Yeah, so 2 minor pieces versus a rook. That
Plus 2
should be
pawns.
able to do it. But yeah, Aristo's getting that well, his pawns are being bombarded by this rook on the 7th.
That's why rooks on the 7th are so good, guys. Make sure you're putting your rooks on the 7th. Wow. Okay,
Yep.
king to
And now,
f6.
ooh, and if king takes, there's a skewer. Nice.
Oh, oh, and
And Aristo's about to
Benjamin's.
flag.
Yeah, Benjamin is making that. No, I wouldn't even call it a comeback, but he's converting this game. We do
Mhm.
actually also see the win coming in for Robbie against Kevin.
Do you think Mizzou's watching this game right now, Nima?
I think someone on Mizzou, if not the coach, someone on Mizzou is definitely watching right now. I'm just saying, keeping an eye out on the opponents. You know,
Yeah,
always
I
keeping an eye out on
cannot
opponents.
wait for that match. That is gonna be such a dramatic semifinals match. We just watched Mizzou just absolutely crumble the SLU team. SLU, probably the worst defeat of their school's entire history. They're gonna come back with a vengeance against Mizzou, and Mizzou's gonna hold on for dear life and see if they can repeat their score. And I have a feeling that they can definitely surprise a lot of people. SLU is definitely the favorite and the defending champion, but after what I saw last week, I have Mizzou taking it.
Yeah, I think Mizzou is looking really good. SLU obviously winning with 11.5 to 3.5, still absolutely crushing it. But as round 4 is now wrapped up, we do have the final scores over here. Sorry, 12.5 to 3.5, 12.5 going to SLU. Very strong team, obviously, but Mizzou is pretty good. Mizzou is pretty good.
Pretty good. I mean, they just beat SLU last week by the same score that SLU beat Columbia. So I do think that Mizzou is pretty good, but obviously regular season at this point, does it even matter, Nemo? We see now playoffs is a whole different season. SLU obviously getting the job done today, and they're going to advance to the semifinals where they're going to take down this Mizzou team. But I do want to give a quick shout out again to Columbia for their match today. Brandon Jacobson leading their team with 2 points. Kevin getting a draw. Aristo, unfortunately, team captain, getting blanked. But huge shout out to Z Wang, surprising a lot of people in that first round and making some history, perhaps one of the biggest upsets in Collegiate Chess League history. So Columbia gave us a lot to watch today. And unfortunately for them, their season comes to an end. But what an exciting season they had, Nemo. What are your thoughts?
It's been really, really exciting. I mean, I'm very sad to see Columbia go, and Brandon Jacobson obviously has been absolutely crushing it. But SLU, as a whole team, is very, very strong, and they are last year's winners. So, of course, it feels fitting that they are going to go into the semifinals. But this time in the semifinals, they're facing off Mizzou, which is one of the schools that's very close to them. They play a lot together, and I think that's going to be pretty intense. Honestly, that's going to be something else. But I have to say, SLU didn't look as good as they could. We've definitely seen some better performances from them before. Not saying that they didn't play well, but in the past, we have definitely seen them like slaughter. Like Nicolas dropped a game today.
Yeah, and he dropped a couple last week too. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do in the semifinals. And we're actually going to be bringing in one of these SLU players to talk to them about it. So stick around, don't go just yet, and put some questions in the chat for us.
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, when you're ready.
All right.
Frozen versus Kostya. Chess Dojo versus... What exactly is your brand? Oh no, my queen? Or just not yet?
Oh no, my heart rate's, yeah.
Overly sized giant queen.
Ah.
Get up, guys. My queen Chester.
Oh, this is Kostya's pet line.
The chess is so good.
Not Tokyo. I haven't looked at the board once.
Eric is fast.
Go for a duty flag. Oh, that knight's not pinned.
Knight is not pinned. Keep it shaken.
All right. Thank you. Okay. It's fine.
Fine?
Fine, yeah. Less stuff in the way. Oh! Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
It's a sacrifice.
Back in it. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
What's going on here? That's not a move.
Oh, shoot. Oh no, my rook. Check, 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 check. Ah.
Did you tell him or should I?
Ah, GG. GG. Oh, good game. Whew. That was a workout. That's tough. Nice. Man, you did 5 of these.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Collegiate Chess League presented to you by SIG. I am here with our very special guest this week. I'm sure you have seen him before, Benjamin Bok. So, Benjamin, how are you doing today? And also, can you please let us know where you are at this very moment?
Yeah, thanks, Nemo and Joe. Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty well. We won our match pretty convincingly. I'm in Montenegro for the European Team Championship. And yeah, so we won the match pretty convincingly. I was not too happy with my own play, but, you know, we got it done, and that's what's the most important.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I wanted to quickly ask if you have some other teammates there that are with you, and if that's like tough for your team to be playing in those conditions, and if you're going to be ready for your huge matchup, the revenge match against your rivals, Mizzou. Do you think that you're going to be able to kind of take back from them what they did last week?
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of interesting. Another teammate of mine is here as well, Nicolas Theodoru. And actually just found out that we're playing Greece tomorrow, so we'll be playing against Nicolas. But yeah, we'll definitely be looking for revenge against Mizzou. They beat us pretty badly in the last round of the regular season. So, you know, we'll have to step it up. We won with a pretty big score today, but I felt like I wasn't necessarily playing my best chess. Nicolas wasn't playing his best chess. So I feel like if we want to beat Mizzou, we'll have to play better next week.
Yeah, I think you guys have been playing, the European Team Championship, which I'm sure is also really important. So I actually did want to, check in with you and ask how that is going for yourself and also for your team. Is Robbie there too, or?
No, Robbie's not here. So today was the first round. I was rested because I came all the way over from the US, so still quite jet lagged. But yeah, we won our first match smoothly, 3-1. So far so good.
Amazing. That's very good to hear. And also, playing 2 tournaments at the same time. Are you also going to be playing next weekend in the semifinals?
Probably. I mean, I feel like if we want to beat Mizzou, we'll have to have our best lineup.
That makes a lot of sense, considering you guys lost without you in the lineup last week because you were commentating in place of Nemo. So, are you glad that she's back?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I'm not shocked necessarily that we lost. I mean, it can happen. You know, Mizzou's a strong team, but I was pretty disappointed in my team that they couldn't get more than what is it like 3.5 points together. So, you know, it's not on me that we had to play this match today.
Wow, I
Wow.
love that. I love that. Benjamin just comes out with it. He's honest. He's like, yeah, it's not my fault. You know, I was out here commentating. It's not on me. That's great. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Benjamin.
3 GMs, so they should put more points together.
Wow, he's
Well, the
doubling down.
Mizzou team also had their own 3 GMs, but it's going to be so exciting to watch this next match next weekend, the semifinals. So I want to congratulate you, Bok, on winning today. You guys punched your ticket to the semifinals along with $500 guaranteed and a chance for more if you can take down your rivals. So best of luck to you, Bok.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Nemo.
Thank you. Amazing. Okay, well, we are going to be going into semifinals next weekend where we have University of Texas at Dallas facing off against University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, as well as University of Missouri playing against St. Louis. Some very, very, very strong teams over here. And Benjamin today was talking about how he is going to be at European teams and also playing next weekend. So I think some of these games are going to be really interesting as some of these players are playing 2 tournaments at the same time. But Joe, what are your predictions? What are your feelings for the semifinals?
I love that you asked that. I actually made a prediction bracket, and I have Mizzou beating SLU. I had seen enough last week, but maybe the SLU team's going to prove me wrong. I know that Bok mentioned they have some players traveling and competing in other things, so I'm not even sure if they're going to have their lineup available. It's going to be really close and a tight match. And I'm also really looking forward to the Texas rivalry match on the other half of the bracket. There's going to be so much fun and exciting chess left to be played in the semifinals and the finals. And I can't wait to see who's going to come out on top.
Absolutely. I think today's games have been really interesting, and I hope everybody that has been watching has enjoyed. It's nice to be back, and it's been amazing commentating with you, Joe. And huge shout out to our sponsors as well, SIG. We really appreciate you and chess.com for putting all of this production together. Next week, you will be seeing the semifinals, and thank you all so much for watching, and thank you very much, Joe.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a blast, Nemo. Have a great one.